England 56 for 2 with Tim Southey ready to go once again from the pavilion end. Bowled a good over just before the break to extract Zach Crawley. England need 217 to win in 43 overs. Around about, what, 5s and over? Just over 4s, 5s and over?
Forget it.
Hello, Phil.
Hello, Tisha. Forget it.
Yeah, as Joe bat hovering as he guides that past third slip. In between third and gully as that races out to the third man boundary in front of the Edrich stand. And he comes back for 2, picks up a couple, 58 for 2, needing 215. Phil, so...
No, the game's
not
up,
gonna
I
happen.
think. No, not going to happen. And Dan can take over from me in the darkened room. That's what I've been doing a little bit. I think it's poor that England have just not even... Well, listen, they might come out, it's only just started after tea. That could be the subtle ploy, that we'll just play normally till tea and then assess and have a little bit of a dip after tea. So we'll wait and see, but...
Southey bowls.
I don't
the
think
length
so.
of Root, who pushes to the offside, no run.
I don't think it is, which I think is a... I don't know. Listen, it's not as if it's the West Indies from the 1980s steaming in it, is it? You know what I mean? With those guys hanging on for dear life. It's some nice pitch upswing bowling, which is good on a pitch that's doing a little bit, but I just feel that England could have made a bit more effort.
Yeah, we just did a piece pitch side with Michael Vaughan saying that he would like to see the inexperienced players be a little bit braver as Root is covering his off stump on the back foot, no run.
Yeah,
and that's around the messaging, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, and also Joe Root, I think, was interviewed at the start of the summer. We're going to be here trying to win every test match that we can. Well, you had an opportunity to win a test match here, and you never even tried to grasp it at any stage. So I don't know whether I'm being a bit harsh.
Is it a hard balance to strike, do you think, when you've got those players who are trying to make a case for themselves for this summer and beyond?
It's about the team. I thought it was a very fair declaration by New Zealand, and everyone was just a little...
An enticing one, yeah.
Yeah, and something that you could have overcome, with some good batting and some good intent and momentum and things, and then if you lose 2 or 3 quick wickets, OK, then you have to reassess, but not even to bother going for it.
Root tries to work one away down the leg side, a diving BJ Watling to his left. He was like Superman in the air.
He was, have a look at
trying to get hold of that one, but he pouches it and he's now shaking his head. I think he doesn't believe he quite got there himself. A wide delivery from Tim Southey down the leg side.
That is a Superman. Yes. Buzz
Andy Zaltzman
Lightyear
just
or something.
Reenacting it.
Yeah, fantastic
in the commentary
stuff.
box.
Just managed to get it in the webbing. He enjoyed that, even though he might have pulled a intercostal or something.
In-play clips available on the BBC Sport website, as that's again bowled wide of the off stump. He's trying to tempt Joe Root, but he's not having any of it. End of the over then, 58 for 2. Root on 2, Sibley on 19. 215 to win off 42 overs. That's just over 5s and over.
I know. Get them off your pads.
If you suddenly switch the mindset and think one day game, I know it's a day 5 pitch, but you're getting those all day long, aren't you?
All day long. And I know this England batting lineup is inexperienced, and we haven't got the big guns of Stokes and Butler and all this kind of stuff, but I think it just sends a bit of a poor message, doesn't it? That slight lack of confidence in the team that's sitting in that England dressing room, perhaps. I don't know.
Wagner shuffles away, bowling the first over from the nursery end after tea. A nice shaping delivery into the right-handed Dom Sibley, who gently pats it back down the pitch. The ground bathing in the sun now as the clouds have cleared ever so slightly, the sun bursting through. Gorgeous Sunday afternoon here at the home of cricket. Flags hanging limp in the distance above the pavilion.
It's a vicious looking comb you got there, Ace. It's like an offensive weapon, that does.
Wagner bowls onto the pads. Given not out by Michael Gough. He's unmoved there at the nursery end.
Didn't quite do enough, did it?
Have a quick look at each other, Wagner and Williamson, but not interested as the ticker time's down. 3, 2, 1. They have not reviewed. 2 reviews left from New Zealand. Just having a look. It pitched in line.
Oh.
Hits him
Oh.
back leg. Maybe slightly higher. Are you feeling that one,
Yeah, I am.
Phil?
Yeah, I am. That is flush. Flush on. Oh.
Probably going down the leg side as well. There's Sibley standing open in his stance. Misses one outside the off stump. Beats the edge through to BJ Watling. Arms raised in the air from Neil Wagner. He's given everything. He always does anyway, but he's been searching so hard for this wicket. That outside edge, which has evaded him so far against Dom Sibley. That one angling in, then hitting the pitch and going down the slope. Unplayable. Yeah, I needed it for my hair.
Yes.
So-
Sharp point, isn't it?
As Wagner bowls wide of the off stump this time. Sibley pushes forwards and allows it to pass. It's a good tool to have when you're trying to get a bit of volume.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's looking at me vacantly.
You don't need any volume there.
He's got plenty of volume at the back of his head.
My hair is by fate and physics.
Sibley with an open stance, bat pointing towards gully as he watches that one go through to the keeper outside off.
Right, what should we talk about?
Well,
There's not much going on out there.
I'll finish the point around the women's test match.
Yes,
which,
yes.
Dan
It's great
was
news,
asking me
isn't it?
about, and with the professionalism, I mean, I would love to see more Test cricket played in the
Yes.
women's game. There's currently no domestic longer format competition.
That's
which,
got to change, hasn't it?
as you see more domestic contracts come into play and more professional contracts, you might think actually that could be something that could be enforced with more time being spent playing cricket. So, I mean, it's something I would love to see. Of course, there is a disparity between the top teams in the world as Wagner bowls full, pushed by Sibley off the front foot to mid-on, no run.
Why don't they play, what would it be, 3-day games, county games?
3 or 4 days?
3 or 4 days? Why not? Why is that not happening? Why has that not been happening?
Because all of the investment has been around
the one-day game.
the one-day
white ball
game,
yeah.
the white ball game, and then obviously T20 cricket being viewed as, you know, the ultimate spectacle for women's cricket, and that's where the investment has gone in from an ICC point of view.
That's the ultimate goal, though, isn't it?
I mean, to play more Test cricket?
Well, and county 4-day cricket.
I mean, I would love to see that.
Yeah,
Yes, as Southey continues from the pavilion end, Joe Root pushing off the front foot to play that towards gully, no run. But the fact is, when I first started playing in 2002, you know, we play Test matches against India, New
When
Zealand.
you first started playing, isn't it?
When I first-
That's when I retired.
Yeah.
2002. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
Feels like a long time ago, though, Phil.
Yeah.
India, New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. Did we play against the West Indies? We were all playing Test cricket as Southey running towards us now, past the stumps, outside the line of off. Again, just leaving that one, the England skipper.
Well, the goal must be to sort of mirror the men's game, mustn't it? And get to that.
Yeah, I think so.
That
But
stage.
in terms of visibility and commerciality around the women's game, the focus has been on T20 cricket and getting more teams around the world playing the shorter format to build the competition level. So you're getting good competitive cricket at the highest level. But the problem you've got is, you know, a lot of teams haven't been professional at the international level. As Southey coming in on an angle, again, wide of the off stump, easy leave. And so you couldn't really ask domestic leagues to form these 3-day, 4-day formats because a lot of the players just didn't have the time to play it. So that's why, you know, it would be a great step going forwards. But the key at the moment is around forming these domestic structures for 50 over 20 over cricket.
Saka still in the background. I think he's got the sniper's rifle out.
Root still in his crease. Back and across. Struck on the pads. Full. Finds its way down to fine leg. And Kettleborough not interested in that one. Tim Southey. Hands on thighs, crouching over. Smile on his face, but he returns to the top of his mark, having not reviewed that one, so probably going down the leg side. It was angled, shaping towards first slip, but it just kept going with the angle.
Yeah, I think the appeal was on the length of it. You've got perhaps half a chance, haven't you, if it's very full. That's going down leg.
Southey comes again towards us, past the umpire, to Sibley, who's working that to wider Schmid on. Picks up his single, moves to 20. 60 for 2 England, requiring 213, 41 overs. Gently patting the wicket now, Joe Root. It's also the entertainment industry, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you're thinking about the fans.
What hit? Yeah.
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 And
No, I agree.
spectators have come in to watch a bit of
I
Test
agree.
cricket here at Lord's, and
It's a bit of a. I know that, Test matches and Test series is, all serious, and you don't want to lose anything. But I think there does come a point
as Root is on the back foot
because there's no
defending.
points for these Test matches, are there? In the for the Test Championship.
No, there is the carrot of if New Zealand win this series, then they jump to the top of the world rankings.
Yeah.
England, if they win 2-0, then they move into second above New Zealand.
Yeah.
But
I think you are a little bit sort of duty bound to, try and produce something, or at least it's the intent that I've been disappointed with. It's just like, right, okay, doesn't matter what New Zealand are going to, they're not going to give it to you, New Zealand, are they? And they did a very reasonable declaration, but not just to even consider it.
here comes the left armer, Neil Wagner, bowls to Sibley, pushing for the offside, no run.
Just 50 runs off the bat in the first 35 overs, going back 20 years on the ball-by-ball data is available. That's the joint second fewest England have scored off the bat in the first 35 overs of a Test innings. They were 49 for naught, all off the bat in Visakhapatnam in the fourth innings in November 2016, trying to bat for a draw. Also 50 for 4 in Centurion in January 2005, but that was a short innings at the end of a series. England were 2-1 up and just hanging on for the victory. So that's right up with England's slowest efforts.
Wagner delivers this one outside the off stump, going through on an angle to BJ Watling. Again, easy lead for Sibley. New Zealand, though, in the last couple of overs, haven't really made England play that much.
No.
And, maybe trying to entice them to drive, but they're not going for the run, so...
Yeah, they've got to change. I mean, they've got an extra slip in now, haven't they? So I think they've twigged it that there's no point in particularly having men back, even though the man has just gone back on the hook. Crikey. Good luck at getting
Trying
Dom
something
Sibley to
different.
play a hook shot.
Trying something different in the mind.
Are we being harsh? Not really, are we?
As Sibley crouches, open stance. Wagner, another good length delivery outside off stump. He's not going to fall for that trap as that goes through to Watling.
Crawley will be disappointed again.
Yeah.
Not a great Test match. Couple of poor shots, really.
I mean, how hard will the coaches be going on the batsmen, do you think, and the inexperienced ones and the shots that they played in this this Test match?
But I mean, okay, there are. Well, they will be. They'll be definitely addressing it. It needs to be addressed, and Crawley is probably.
Wagner winds up short ball outside off. Leans back to Sibley as it goes through.
Sorry, someone who's going to be looking to play the whole summer. It's not like a Bracey or someone like that. I mean, he he hasn't covered himself in glory with those 2 shots here, and they were pretty basic technical errors, really, or mindset.
The one wider the off stump to Southey, where he came a bit wider, set him up, and then the one today slightly straighter, angled away from him.
Yeah.
He was playing it too straight, actually.
Yeah.
Needed to play with the swing as Wagner bowls, beats the edge, as Sibley forward presses and looks to defend. A shaping delivery from that kind of round arm delivery, the way he loads up like an archer, delivering the bow. Yeah, again, shape down the pitch and
Archer.
then hits it going down the slope.
Mentioned Sibley's run of single-figure scores earlier on. He had 6 in a row before this innings. Crawley's now had 5 in a row, and 8 of his last 10 since that sensational 267 against Pakistan at the end of last summer. 8 of his last 10 he's been out in single figures.
Yeah, starting to become a worry.
Sibley back and across, pushes to gully, no run. Good length on off. End of the over, 60 for 2. Root on 3, Sibley 20, 213 to win for England. 39 overs left, counting down. I wonder if the slope has got to him a little bit as well.
Who? Sorry, it's Dom.
Crawley.
Yeah. Well, it can play with your mind a touch, especially if you haven't played here a lot or experienced it a lot. Perhaps that comes into it. Oh, they're a fine bowling side, aren't they, New Zealand? You know, they're all pitch-up swing bowlers who are experienced.
The crowd love Neil Wagner. He's just popped down to the mound stand and receiving
There's a lot of Kiwis down there.
applause, yeah.
They've got good support in,
Yeah.
all in the retro kit.
He is a likeable character.
Yeah.
As Southey continues, Root covers the ball on off stump. It's a good defensive push. Back to the bowler. Phil Holland emails us, I've got 2 tickets for day 1 at Edgbaston.
Yep.
Listening to England's performance, I'm not sure I want them.
No, first day will be all right.
Why aren't they going for this?
Wow. Yeah, no, get yourself down to Edgbaston. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, just hasn't quite sparked into life for England.
New Zealand trying to find different ways of picking up these wickets. Just sent a man back out at deep square as Southey circles on an angle. He bowls to Root, who's defending, back down the pitch. No run.
Hasn't quite sparked into life. The same way that the vet hasn't quite sparked the 20-year-old dog into life, I'm going to take it there.
Yeah. Need to get what are those things called? The old clear.
Defibrillator.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Need to give the fellas a jolt to that. What's this all about?
Thomas and Surrey, some
Yeah.
of the criticisms of Dom Sibley are astounding.
All right.
We've complained for 10 years about not having openers who can set a platform, and now we criticise our most promising young opener for not scoring in a runner ball as Root defends, but it hits the inner part of the bat to a vacant mid-wicket, comes through for 1,
Well,
and 212 to win.
I can answer that. It's called situation of the game. You know, it's about where you're standing at the moment in the game, and I agree with him. First innings, you want to set that platform and get yourself into the game, but I mean, this was a chance to then try and just kick on a bit and at least put New Zealand under pressure to try and win a test match. So I think that's what we're saying.
And if you're talking
situational
about
play,
yeah, and if you're talking about seeing off the new ball, we're now into the 37th over, and he hasn't really changed his mode.
Yeah, no. So you've got to be able to, at this level, to adapt.
I think he's had a lot of praise for the good innings he's played for England as well.
Absolutely, yeah, full of praise when he got his hundreds, and it's the way that
Sibley defends to mid-off.
Chris Silverwood had sort of setting his stall out, but then when you've got a sniff, you've got to be, prepared to perhaps sacrifice yourself a bit and push yourself and try to get on with it a bit. But I think it might have been that they were told, when the declaration come, I think that actually it was probably told to them that we're not going to go for it. Really? Do you think?
I don't think that would have been the messaging. I think the messaging would have been bat for the next half an hour, see where you're at, and they haven't really.
No.
As Southey bowls to Sibley on his pads, that's where he likes the ball, and he's whipped it down to fine leg, comes through for 1, moves to 21, 211 to win. I think there's some cheers in the crowd for him getting off the mark. As the score moves to 62 for 2. Bat leaning on his thigh pad at the non-striker's end. Root called for a drink just a second ago. I wonder if that might be something. I don't know. He's going to send a message. Right, come on.
You reckon?
2 slips in position. No, as he defends to Gully.
No, perhaps we were.
No run.
We were getting a little bit too enthusiastic, perhaps.
211 to win, then 38 overs left. David Paddle, what a great opportunity to entertain the fans, crowds on the final day of the test. Well done, New Zealand, for a cracking positive declaration. Yep. And what do we get? An utter bore fest from England. Absolutely dire. A test that doesn't mean that much. Yes, certain batsmen are playing for their places, but I'm sorry. Find England's reply utterly disappointing. I'm now hoping New Zealand win. An England fan for 50 years, but I'm so angry at their negative batting. Dull, dull, dull.
Summed it up quite nicely. I perhaps would have added an extra dull.
As Neil Wagner sets off, 3 slips in position as Sibley drives forcefully, but to Kane Williamson at wideish mid-off, no run. Yeah, I mean, you do have to think of New Zealand as well. I mean, they didn't have to set up that declaration.
No, absolutely. They're not duty bound. No.
He didn't have to get his bowlers to go
back out there and put more miles in the legs.
With a 3-day turnaround and
Exactly.
thinking about the Test Championship in 10 days' time as Wagner circles. Here he comes, the left armour. Past the stumps to Sibley, who's driving back past the bowler off the back foot. Williamson running round to his left to collect the ball as he comes through for 210 required to win.
I suppose that one thing in England's defence is that no one's sort of like rocketed along anyway, have they, during this Test match? The pitch has been quite tricky to score on. I shouldn't have said that. Conway got 200, didn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was at a sort of a steady pace, wasn't it?
Rory Burns, his innings shifted as he got himself in and got away from that new ball. There was a period where he was going along at a decent strike rate as Joe Root just remarks his guard. Let's quick look over to square leg, vacant square leg, as he now sets up once more. Open stance to the left armour as shaping delivery is defended on middle stump. Coming back into him, no run.
That single by Sibley broke a run of 24 dot balls that Neil Wagner had bowled to him consecutively.
Wagner scratching away at the popping crease. Got plans tomorrow? Next few days, Phil?
Monday? What am I doing Monday? Oh, Tuffers and Vaughan. Tuffers and Vaughan, and we will be dissecting this Test match, along with some other things, I'm sure. So I've got that tomorrow.
Yeah, 3-day turnaround before
Yeah.
the Edgbaston Test. And another 5 Test matches for England this summer as the blonde-haired Neil Wagner bowls wide this time of the off stump, and Joe Root watches it go by.
And then Tuesday, I think I'm having a 100 photo shoot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get myself.
I'm not sure the team's been announced yet for the 100, but... So you're going to be part of it?
What do you mean? Have I let the cat out? I'm sorry.
Looking forward to that this summer, Phil, the 100. London Spirit playing here. I bumped into John Stevenson earlier, who's excited about the likes of Shane Warne being here for the men's team.
Yes.
Owen Morgan, the captain, of course. Glenn Maxwell. There's Wagner bowls on the stumps, no run. The women's team as well, captained by Heather Knight. Yeah, wonderful opportunity opportunity here at Lords, and Shane Warne as well as a coach. I mean, wonderful for the younger players. His cricket brain is phenomenal. Great person to learn from.
Yeah, there's some great coaches.
He would have declared something like this, taken a gamble.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even. It was just a good old setting up a bit of a game kind of declaration, you know. Yeah, he would have definitely done that.
Square leg goes out to the boundary. Wagner bowls full. Root pushes forwards, inside edge onto the pad, falls out in front of him. No run at the end of the over.
I wonder what England would have done.
63 for 2, Sibley on 22, Root on 4. 210 to win for England. 37 overs left in the day. A few words from you, Phil, and then Jonathan Agnew.
Cheers. Yeah, it's come to a bit of a standstill at Lords, I'm afraid. Not much going on. England just looking to, well, not even survive. It's John, help me out.
Well, I wish I could.
Yeah. What should we talk about?
Well, we can.
You're going up to Skegness tomorrow, aren't you?
I'll go on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yes.
Lovely.
So tomorrow I'm going to pay tribute to a very fine former colleague of mine. In comes Southey, bowls. That's punched away from outside the off stump to mid-wicket by Sibley out to mid-wicket. Blethen Jones, wonderful
Yep.
rugby commentator. Everyone round Leicester. Although Blethen, lovely bloke.
Yep.
So I'm going to pay tribute to him tomorrow. And Tuesday, day off.
Yeah.
I think we need it after this.
Yeah, I think we do. Feet up. Oh no, but you'll be flying up to Skegness with Bumble.
Yeah. Get away from it. Wednesday, Edgbaston.
Yep. Start again.
Yep. And I wonder if Joe Root will tell me there. We're going to try and win all 6 Test matches of this summer. In comes Southey, bowls. Because before this one, he said we're going to try and win all 7 Test matches this summer. So this evening, I'm going to say.
Oh, you interviewing him?
Well, of course.
You're going to hit it. You're going to.
Well, I've got to ask the question on behalf of our loyal listener.
Yeah.
Who that chap there reading out is dull, dull, dull.
Yeah.
I'm the messenger. Don't worry, Mr. Dull, dull, dull.
Yeah.
I'm going to get shot at tonight.
Yeah.
But I'll go and ask the question.
Yeah.
That's what he said. That's what he said. We're going to try and win. Our aim is to win all 7 Test matches this summer.
Yeah.
And he said that to me the day before this Test match. So I haven't seen a lot of that today.
No. So why didn't you try?
63 for 2. Take 10 off for extras. Here's Southey bowling.
He's played rather well, hasn't he?
Played out to mid on. So in fact, 53 have come off the bat
Yeah, extras has gone on with it.
in 39 overs.
I'm a little bit. What do you think he's going to say then?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you think he'll bite back a
We've
bit?
crossed swords before. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of the.
I wonder what England would have done if they were in New Zealand's position. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
You know, how many they would have set, or what their thought processes would have been.
I don't know. Looking at this,
No,
we'll
nor do
declare
I.
with about 2 overs to go.
Yeah, there you go.
Southey on the way. Here he comes and he bowls, and Sibley allows that to go through outside the off stump. I mean, now they have totally
Switched off.
Stopped now. Yeah.
Block,
So-
block.
Yeah. So it is a shame, and no Test match should ever be taken lightly. And I've always felt slightly that when those that aren't World Test Championship points, well, they're still Test matches.
Yeah,
because there aren't
exactly.
points on. There haven't been points for virtually every Test match that ever been played, but there is now a bit of a difference in terms of those games that do not carry points with them.
Yeah.
And this game is one of those.
Right. Well,
So- Well, yeah, you'll be in your car probably by then.
I'll listen to it on the radio.
In
on the way
comes
home.
Southey, bowls, Sibley blocks it, and Southey follows through. And Fields, 63 for 2. Here's a man who'll liven it up. Maybe, particularly on days like today, that Vic Marks is even more grateful that he's retired and hasn't got to try and dig 1,000 words out of this. But there'd have been kindly words, because you always were a kindly correspondent, Victor. You always looked at the nice aspect of things.
I didn't realise you read me so voraciously.
Well, every now and then. Southey bowls, Sibley turns that away. He's got a run down to fine leg, and there's some applause ringing out there. So he takes the strike as well. 64 for 2. Sibley goes to 23 from 106 balls. If you're just wondering why, people are chuntering a little bit. Well, it's because New Zealand declared at lunch, and it was an early lunch because of a passing shower, and they set England what appeared to be, well, it wasn't a generous declaration, but it was certainly more generous than you usually get in Test matches. In 99.99% of Test matches, you don't get set 273 to win in 75 overs. So obviously that length of time of 75 overs was in New Zealand's favour as well. It gave them more time to bowl England out, and the pitch is uneven in bounce. In goes Wagner, bowls, simply drives him. He drives him down the ground. Now will it go for 4? Williamson's giving chase here. There's a no, it won't. He gets a 3. It is almost a 4. And the crowd can hardly believe it. So, the point being that there really has not been any effort here, or apparent effort, to try and win, which is a shame because,
I feel the need to apologise to our listener, really, because when the declaration happened and I came on soon after, I was of the mind of, don't go away.
yeah, absolutely.
Keep by that radio.
We signed off our journalist panel.
Yeah.
It's exciting and terrific afternoon.
And I may have misled you. We may have misled you.
In goes Wagner, there and he bowls, and Root plays no shot. Mark Whitfield emails from Manchester. Too many players playing for themselves. Sheep, not lions, he said. We've had a winter with excuses and acceptance of poor performances. Root will be over the moon if we bat out for a draw. This total lack of ambition starts with the captain. I'd rather hear more talk about Simon's garden fence paint dilemma. I missed that. But,
Well, I know what it's...
we're talking colour here, are we, or something?
He can't find any rustic brown for his mum's fence, garden fence.
Oh, that is sad.
Yeah.
Right, that is a problem. 67 for 2. Root's on 4, and he lets that one go through outside the off stump as well.
It happens to the strange people. I'm sorry, I know these are ancient, but I remember when Ian Botham was captain, and there was a sort of celebratory game versus Australia in 1980, at the end of the 1980 season,
Yes.
having played against the West Indies, and it was to celebrate some sort of, could it have been a bicentenary or something? So it was a big test match with everyone here, blah, 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 blah. One-off test match, and the Australians, I think, declared, and England, under the captaincy of Beefy, showed absolutely no interest.
Wagner goes a bit wider of the crease. It's very full, this. Root has blocked it back into the covers.
And it may well be that dear old Boyce batted it out rather well, but under instruction, I think. I don't know. Help me.
England was set 370. And they got 244 for 3, but that's from 82 overs. Boycott 128 off 252.
Oh, right. Well, that was racing along, actually. He must have played extremely well.
Bigger target, too. Would you say 400 what?
370 to win.
370, yeah.
So it was quite a big target, but they showed absolutely no interest.
Wagner runs in, bowls, and Root plays no stroke this time.
But, if you read out those figures, it kind of demonstrates how generous this declaration was by comparison. We're talking 1980, where people didn't really think about scoring at 4 runs per over.
Well, can I offer the thought that in this, 273 and 75, if 2 people got in...
Yeah, in 2 significant innings.
They'd win the game.
Yeah. So I think it's a missed opportunity. They might have lost. They might still lose. England might still lose. You lose a wicket, and it's Joe Root, and then Sibley goes, and hey-ho, nerves are jangling.
Wagner again, bowls, and Root solidly defends. The ball rolls out to Williamson at mid-off. It's the end of the over.
And also the element of celebration that accompanied this game with, for the first time in 18 months, we've actually got people in the ground and enjoying the sunshine and enjoying just being back at cricket. You thought that might give you a slightly different perspective about how you play this game. As you say, well, if we've got the World Test Championship, and it is a significant sort of measure of how you're doing, but if this doesn't count, that gives you a little bit more freedom as well. Admittedly, England don't have their strongest side, but just imagine what it would have done to some of the players in this team if they happened to play in a barnstorming run chase, whether it came off or not. We'd remember the game as it is. Well, we might still remember it for the wrong reasons, i.e. the doer final innings, which ended in cricketing catastrophe when the wickets fell in a rush in the last session, or more likely, from this juncture, a dullish draw that promised so much more.
De Grandhomme is back up at the pavilion end. His first ball's wide of the off stump. Doesn't interest Sibley at all. Watches it go through. Pause at the crease. There's 35 overs to go. Now, they could finish that by walking off with 15 to go.
Not if there's only, say, 4 wickets down. They'll keep going, I reckon.
Oh, yeah. De Grandhomme bowls and Sibley allows that to go by outside the off stump.
Score after 40 overs, 67 for 2, was England's joint second lowest after 40 overs in the last 20 years. Only in Visakhapatnam, 52 for 0, and they were battling for a draw. Has been slower than this.
That was another innings, actually. I remember it now. It seemed not impossible.
De Grandhomme is pitched up and just pushed away to mid-on by Sibley. No run.
It seemed not impossible at Visakhapatnam that time. I know there was a lot of runs needed, but there was still quite a lot of time. I think actually India might have been bowled out rather than declared. And I think it was Alistair Cook and Hamid who batted all through but went incredibly slowly. So by the 5th day, any possibility of a victory had started to recede. I know that would have been a long shot, but a lot of teams now, they're not threatened by big final innings targets. They just try and knock them off, and we've seen actually quite recently that happen around the world, both in Test cricket and occasionally also in county cricket.
De Grandhomme again bowls. Sibley redoubtably allows that to go through outside the off stump. Ian McDowell, I'm sat at Lord's watching England having a net. Sadly, the England performance is totally in keeping with their attitude to these tests. Unlike the Kiwis, they rested their IPL returnees. They made no effort to chase this very canny declaration. There were lots of youngsters here today, many of whom have already left, disappointed and switched off from Test cricket. Shabby performance, England. It's hard to argue with it. I mean, just to make an effort, just to at least try it. I think that's all people expected. People would have expected. Grandhomme again, hair flowing, and Watling's up at the stumps now. Can't surely be expecting Sibley to use his feet down the pitch. I don't think that's likely.
No, he may have had to change where he's standing, but that's about it, I think.
67 for 2, Sibley on 26. Grandhomme bowls to him. Oh, well, he does open his shoulders there, and the ball dribbles out to mid-on. It was a pull shot, really, and he now regrets playing. He should have played it straighter, he says. But no run, 67 for 2.
We're going to see Mitchell Santner from the nursery end, where he's more likely to get the ball past the outside edge of a right-handed batsman. The sun's beaming down.
15 of these 40 overs or so have been maidens.
It's the 10th maiden that Sibley has played out in this innings.
Is that some sort of record?
I'm not sure.
Sorry, that was a tired question, and you can ignore it.
Neil Wagner's spell, 10 overs, 1 for 9 between overs 21 and 40. Inclusive, England scored just 21 runs.
John Foster writes, I was lucky enough to have snagged a ticket for today's play. I'm sat in the grandstand. At lunch, things are beautifully poised. That very generous declaration from Kane Williamson. And after 18 months away, it seemed we're in for a cracking afternoon. Instead, it's been an absolute snore fest, with the first match back for fans turning into a damp squib. How are we supposed to get more people passionate about Test cricket when even the England players seem so disinterested in it? Quite frankly, watching Simon Mann's mother's fence drying would be a better way to spend an afternoon.
I mean,
He hasn't got any paint, that's the trouble though. He hasn't got any paint to watch dry, has he?
Yeah, no, he hasn't got any paint to watch it.
No.
But I'm slightly concerned if dear Simon's mum has been listening, as she probably loyally is,
Yes.
every half an hour or so, or 20 minutes or so. She must be a little bit mystified by such a reference to her fence.
How big a fence is it? Is it a long
you'd have to
expansive
ask.
fence?
You'd have to ask Simon.
Where is this fence?
Bristol.
It's in Bristol. Right.
Who would have thought it?
Is it a picket fence?
Well, it's a garden fence, I think.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not an expert on this,
No,
but I was initially there when Simon had his laptop open, looking a little grumpy.
Right.
And I said, what's the problem? He said, rustic brown, there's none about.
Santner's on. From left arm round the wicket, bowling his spin. And Root guides the first ball out to cover. And there's no runs. His 28th ball for Joe Root. He's 4. Oh. I don't know whether I want to go first tonight or last in the queue. In goes Santner, bowls. Short outside the off stump, chopped away straight to the fielder.
Is this the broadcast queue?
The interviewing queue.
Oh, I imagine, Jonathan, I think you'd like to go first.
Well, I don't know.
I think set the tone.
Oh, well, I think
leave the others scrambling around for some sort of question.
I think I might like the tone to have been already set.
Well, you've done it for long enough.
Well,
you can go either way.
There goes Santner again. He bowls. Oh, that spins sharply and somehow runs off Root's bat. He's going to get a couple of runs here. Taylor in pursuit down to the third man area. They've taken 2. Actually, they might be buys. They're buys. That's that's a remarkable ball then. That really has spat.
Yeah.
Big spinner.
Almost over Watling's head.
It looks like they've got a bat on this, but whoa, funny shot, and that really turned. I mean, that just took off.
Yeah. Well, that's another sign of what has actually been. I mean, I know this sounds no real consolation. This would have been a terrific 5-day game if we hadn't lost that day. Could have been a terrific 4-day game.
Santner again, and again that turns sharply.
It's a good picture. This is what it's supposed to do on the last day.
Now, good old John from Stevie, Lincolnshire. Now, he's absolutely right here. Perhaps rustic brown must feature prominently in Victor's wardrobe.
Well, however do you
so perhaps he could help Simon with his colour matching. That's absolutely true. In fact, what colour's that jacket?
Right, it's not rustic brown.
No.
It is a jacket.
Sort of a coat. It's certainly it's cardboard brown. In goes Santner, tossing this up, driven by Root to short cover, and there is no run. One of the old faithfuls.
Well, no, it's not that old actually, because anyway, you don't really want to know, but I bought this just before we were about to go to Sri Lanka, and then that tour got called off.
Yeah, okay.
So it hasn't had much wear.
No, it's not worn very well though. As it's pushed away off the front foot out to point.
What do you mean?
Well, the pockets are a bit baggy.
Well, I've probably lost weight since
You
then.
weren't going to wear that in Sri Lanka, were you?
Well, it's definitely coming with me, I'm sure. I'm not sure I got as far as packing. I think I almost did. It all got called off very soon before I was heading off to the airport. The players are already there. We were going to get out there for that first test match.
We were.
So you don't think it was a good purchase?
No, I think it's...
Anyway, that's enough of that. It's not rustic brown. Nor is it digestive biscuit brown, which is how the pitches used to be. This pitch is more digestive
cardboard
biscuit.
brown.
Well, I'd like something a little bit. I don't think the makers would approve of a cardboard brown jacket.
69 for 2. And what's happening out there? Well, I can see people having a drink and sitting in the sunshine and looking generally bemused. And we've got de Grandhomme shuffling in from the far end and bowling to Sibley as a thick edge. The ball dribbles away through gully, pursued by Conway. And Sibley will take 2. 28 not out. 71 for 2, the target 273. Tony White. Today's a prime example of why cricket is in trouble. First thing professional sportsmen must remember is they are in the entertainment industry. De Grandhomme flicks that away down towards backward square leg. It's Sibley picks up a couple there, and it goes 2 more. The first thing, TV money depends on entertainment value. Today's declaration left the door open for an entertaining run chase. And instead, England are playing it like a boring Saturday league game. So what I could do, I could go down with a sheath of these and not actually ask any questions myself, but just produce them as evidence. In goes de Grandhomme outside the off stump, and Sibley plays no stroke.
I've noticed this about broadcast journalists, is that the canny, they don't say, this is what I need to ask you. So I've had listeners hordes of listeners asking this question, which I just simply have to pass on. I am only the messenger.
There is a
Why-
technique.
Yeah,
There is a
yes.
technique in framing.
There are those who say. Is that it?
Well, almost. Here's the
What is
con,
it?
Tom, playing it back again. What do you say to those who say? That's the way you do it. What do you say to those who say?
And there have been quite a few of our listeners saying this.
To those who say, and I'm not amongst them, obviously. What do you say to those who say that today has been an absolute dullest thing I've seen on a cricket field for 30 years? You could couch a question like that, which I probably will actually. In comes the Grand Dom, bowls outside the off stump.
Could be the highlight of the day.
What? Do you,
Although I don't think I'll necessarily stay to hear it.
no,
Yeah.
no, that is one that I've learnt over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure you've used it a few times when the going's getting a little sticky. What do you say to those who say, mistakenly or not?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's a way of asking the question, but the art of it is trying to make sure that he speaks to me again on Wednesday morning. In comes the Grand Dom, bowls, and that's
He
played
will.
off the front foot well, he goes into the offside. The Grand Dom field. It's the end of the over, and I'm going to tear myself away from this for a moment, Victor.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave you to keep morale up. And we've got Dan Norcross coming in here after. Thoughts from you?
Well, there were actually 4 runs from that over, and that's more than was required when we set off. But as it happens now, there are 200 runs needed to win, and there are 32 overs left. Now, if, of course, this was a 50-over match, a World Cup match, you think, well, that's game on. It is a 5th-day pitch. The ball is misbehaving now and again. It's swung a little. It's spun a little, actually, for Santner. But the bowlers have been allowed to bowl extremely well, and they've gained in confidence, essentially, especially the seam bowlers. Wagner's bowled well. Jameson's given nothing away.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What target do you think England would have gone after? Santner's going to start a new over from the nursery end, and Root sweeps, gets it fine. It's running up towards the boundary at the pavilion end. I don't think it'll get there. It's sort of slowing up as it goes up the hill, and it's been pursued all the way there by Slip, and they've come back for 3.
Well, I'm tempted to
And it's
say...
leg by, sorry, just to clear up, it's leg buys that, so there wasn't anything on it from Root's bat. 76 for 2.
I'm tempted to say that they seemed as if they would require a Hansi Cronje style declaration.
Well, this isn't far off that. 270 and 73.
Well, it'd be quite like to know, actually. It was about 250.
So 240 and 80, do you think that would have done it? Would that have got them excited?
You would have thought so. They might have got that by mistake. I'd like to know what the infamous Cronje declaration was.
Santner in, tossed up a little bit, defended into the onside by Sibley, picked up at short leg, there's no run.
And it won't, you're right, it won't be massively different to what we've had today. It will be a slightly more alluring. I remember, we all know the story of Nasser Hussaini, who was England captain. Tuffers was there, actually, witnessing all this.
Santner in around the wicket, Sibley is back into his crease, pushes into the offside, it's fielded in the covers, there's no run.
But Nasser had gone off the field to have these negotiations, and it happens quite often in county cricket, and he'd witness old Keith Fletcher at Essex, conducting rather brilliantly those negotiations about what's a fair target. And in his own mind, he thought about 250 would be a good outcome.
Santner in, and that's worked again into the onside on the bounce to short leg.
So
Very full ball.
He
there's no
kind
run.
of tossed that out as his opening bid.
And it was
To Cronje, and said, that'll be fine. Well, I think essentially that's what happened. He was gobsmacked by this. And so the game proceeded. And Tuffers was who's 12th man, I think, was looking on, sensing something wasn't quite right.
Forward comes Sibley to this next ball from Santner into the onside. Santner just wanders off to collect, and there's, again, no run. Root has 4, Sibley 30, 76 for 2. Yeah, so what was it, Andy? What's
255 in 73 overs, I think.
Right, okay. So really quite similar to this. Down the leg side, clipped away nicely. It's back of the square on the onside to, I think, sarcastic applause, but certainly happy applause. A single for Sibley, and Sibley moves to 31, 77 for 2.
So it wasn't quite that, and I was just reading the the Wisden report, England's target is 249. They got it in 75.1 overs.
So it was and there weren't many overs to spare though at the end. I don't think if it might be one or two, no more than that. So it was more generous than this one.
A little bit.
But not by a massive margin.
I mean, the pitch, I guess, look, this pitch has been quite awkward. Now, I've got an email from James Evans.
Okay.
And I've got to read all of this. It's one for Andy Zaltzman.
Ah, good.
Where would 273 rank in the history of successful fourth innings run chases at Lords? Seems to me that England are playing the match situation just as New Zealand did in scoring 62 runs in 30 overs yesterday. It's not an easy pitch to score quick runs on, and the required run rate for the chase was higher than any previous innings in the match. This morning, batting in a low-pressure situation with the match virtually safe, as de Grandhomme runs in to start a new over, Sibley, a fine leg glance. He'll pick up at least one and probably turn for a second. He has come back for two. Wagner throws in, and they do make it comfortably. Sibley to 33, 79 for two. This morning, batting in a low-pressure situation with the match virtually safe, New Zealand only managed to score 107 in 22 overs, losing 4 wickets in the process. To me, this wasn't a particularly inviting declaration, and I'm not at all surprised to see England, with an inexperienced and under-pressure lineup, bat for the draw to keep the series alive. England also have a bad habit of losing the first test of the summer, for which they're routinely panned. He makes a very strong point, a point that we've been making a fair bit, how difficult it was this morning for New Zealand, even as they were thrashing around. Only got 107 in 20-odd overs. And de Grandhomme's delivery left outside off stump, through to the keeper, no run. His next delivery is worked into the onside for a single, out to deep mid-wicket.
I think
the score moves to 80 for 2. Sibley has 34.
criticism is the extent of the passivity, though, rather than...
I agree with you. I don't think... I think it was probably unlikely that they would manage 273, but the limit of the ambition, really, of even trying to put some pressure on New Zealand, it suggests they had absolutely no faith in their lower order to dig in if they lost some wickets, doesn't it?
And the fact there weren't that many overs that they'd have to block out if they did lose a couple to get a draw.
Especially having used up quite a few in not scoring any runs, as Root defends a full straight ball into the covers and there is no run. 80 for 2. Yes, I think that's the issue. If you're here watching it, I don't deny that these are testing conditions, and I think our correspondent there is absolutely right to raise all of those issues. Grandhomme in, defended once more, the back foot into the offside, there's no run. But you'd like to think they might have been able just to put a bit of pressure. It might make their life easier in the long run as well, because it might have forced Kane Williamson into a more defensive posture himself, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a very good declaration, because you would have thought it would have forced England to
have a look. Yeah.
And then all possibilities are there, including an England victory.
Grandhomme in, that's full and driven up to mid-on, there's no run.
But I also think it's the lack of ambition, and it may reflect on the fact that it is almost a scratch England side in many ways, with 2 debutants and a couple others who are not particularly experienced. But in a curious sort of way, I think young cricketers of ambition would much prefer the notion nowadays, anyway, of going out and trying to win a game rather than having to defend furiously to save it. But still,
the drinks break.
Yeah.
I don't know how many drinks breaks we'll have in this session. It might just be the one. It might be more, depending on whether the 2 sides shake hands early.
And as I was saying to Aggers, I also think, from the broader perspective, the context of this game, the first one back after the agony of behind closed doors cricket and sport being...
But Victor,
like everyone else, humbled by it all.
But is it fair for someone like, say, Crawley or Sibley, whose careers... I guess it depends. If Joe Root says to them, look, whatever happens in this innings, if you get out, we are not going to take any notice of this. There'll be no negative consequences for how you get out if we're going for it. But, it is tough for them. There's a lot of players who don't know their place in the side is not secure, and there are players coming back in. So
but they're two-way. I mean, players are far more secure now than they ever were. They've got a lot of them got their central contracts.
you did have it tougher, right?
No, I'm not suggesting that particularly, but they are. And there is the alternative view is that here's an opportunity, and the likes of particularly Lawrence and Crawley and Pope, they're better players when they're asked to be positive. That's how they play their cricket, by and large.
Yeah.
So it actually, Sibley is the exception in that sense, in that he is a rare modern player who really likes to bat balls, and he's got his 100 up. He's got another 100 on the bank. But generally, the modern player is more comfortable with a target to chase.
You know what would happen in a friendly here? If we were playing, if this was a Sunday friendly, the captain would bring on some particularly gentle bowling.
Yeah,
say,
well,
would you like to get a quick 60?
I know.
It's not going to happen.
But no, I wouldn't want Williamson to do that. It's been far too. He's been generous enough, frankly. And if England
quite
don't,
insulting, actually.
Yeah.
I think it would be.
Yeah, but if England don't want to. But in fact, there's been a slight upturn in the run rate. Sibley's just found the gaps a few times, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. I just disappointed because England generally talk a very positive game, and you know, Joe Root loves this game, and the lack of ambition. And they talk about all the talent in the dressing room, and we're moving forward. So I just don't understand the lack of ambition. They would not have been castigated here in a 2-match series against New Zealand if the run chase had gone awry.
Let me ask another question.
But they could have been heroes.
They could have been, but look, this isn't part of the World Test Championship, and some of us have been positing that maybe, therefore, it would be more likely they'd have a go because it doesn't matter. But then the World Test Championship has only happened for the last few years. Why would the World Test Championship or not the World Test Championship determine the way you play? Would it? Is it valid that it would?
It's never been a question we've had to ask until the last 2 or 3 years, but maybe you could argue perhaps that should be the case when captains and coaches survey what's ahead of them.
Feels more like a friendly. I mean, there is no such thing.
We don't want friendlies or exhibition-y type games, obviously. But there is a different context to Test matches now, and that's partly what the World Test Championship is all about. So if you might as well take advantage, if you like, of the freedom of a non-World Test Championship match gives you.
Slip, silly bit off, short leg, first ball after drinks has been
smacked it for 4.
Down the ground, down through long on. For 4, that's Dominic Sibley doing that, and listen to the rapturous applause from the crowd. And we could be about to look incredibly silly. 195 required from 30 overs with 8 wickets in hand. They played this perfectly, Vic. They've set the perfect platform. The ball's soft. The New Zealand bowlers are tired. They're toiling out there. It's warm.
I do remember the Test match.
Santner to Sibley, who comes forward in defence and pushes to save it off, and there's no run.
Alistair Cook's very first Test match in Nagpur, where India were batting last, and England had dominated the game, Cook getting 100 in the second innings, and set a target, but a stiff one.
Santner in round the wicket, and Sibley defends again off the front foot, big long stride in and stuns the ball, no run.
And at tea, on the last day, India had batted pretty well. I think Tendulkar was at the crease, but they were only 2 or 3 wickets down. And the target was some way off. We'd all just assumed, well, nice try, match drawn.
Ball clipped away into the onside. More runs here. 2 at least. I think it will be just the 2. And at the start of this over, England's required run rate was 6.5. They've got 6 of them already with 2 balls to go. They're 86 for 2. Sibley to 40.
And glory be, in this particular match, India came out after tea, and their attitude completely changed. The batting order changed. Dhoni promoted himself. They didn't go on to win the game, but there was an hour or so.
Little frisson, yeah?
Yeah.
Santner tosses this up. It's driven into the offside, but a good diving stop at extra cover prevents a run.
I don't think that's going to happen here.
I don't think so. You never know.
Well, the
it'll-
target was so
it'll make chumps of all
enticing
this,
that
yeah.
you only needed 2 or 3 overs, and suddenly it could change. But I don't, as I say, let's not get overexcited.
Last ball of Santner's is squeezed out square of the wicket by Sibley, but he can't beat the fielder. 6 off the over, 86 for 2, 40 to Sibley, only 4 to Root has 4 from 37. Now, whether this is because the pitch is really, really difficult and we're not properly appreciating just how hard it is to score runs.
It's because Root had decided, certainly by the time he came in, who knows what he'd decided when England started batting, but when he came in, he's decided that it is simply not feasible to chase his target, and therefore, tunnel thinking, I'm just going to stay in. And in a sense, that's understandable.
But it's very
But it's whether he
Root-like,
thought
isn't it?
that at the commencement of the innings is what rather intrigues me. But our news hound, Agnew, with his subtle questioning,
Oh, yeah.
will give us the answer. He'll tease it out. What will you say to those who say? He's already given his tactic away.
Oh, has he?
Yes.
I was going to say. Yes, be careful, because some of these things have to remain very secret.
Okay, I better go then. Hush.
All right. Yeah. Goodbye, Victor. When are you back? Are you back? You are back, I think. Yes, you're back at the end.
Well, unless the
they
leaders
shake
of the
hands.
2 teams have shaken
Yeah.
hands.
Charles Jameson is coming back into the attack. Jameson's bowled 10 overs, 6 maidens, none for 8. Wagner's bowled 10 overs, 1 for 9, isn't it? So 20 overs for 17 runs between these two seamers. And here comes the tall Jameson into Root. He's got 2 slips, and Root digs a full ball out to Colin de Grandhomme, who's quite straight at mid-on. There's no run. 2 slips, gully, point, extra cover, mid-off, straightish mid-on, squarish mid-wicket, and a long leg. And coming in to join me, I don't think we've had the thoughts of Michael Vaughan since tea on these tactics and how this is going. Everyone else has had their say. There's been a fair bit of devil's advocacy going on, but there's a general consensus of disappointment as Jameson is into Root, who clips this away fine. It's going to run away to the boundary for 4. Runs galore. What's happening? Is it happening? Andy Zaltzman? Is it happening? Michael Vaughan?
No,
Are we going to see the big turnaround?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm afraid not. No, I just think it's been an opportunity missed. I completely understand batting the first 15 overs on this kind of pitch. You try and see off the new ball. They did that. Get it down to 60 overs, and then you start trying to be a bit busier. And they've just not shown that intent. So, yeah, an opportunity missed. Decent crowd. No Test Match Championship points up for grabs.
90 for 2. Jameson into Root. Root lets this go by outside the off stump. Not too far from his off stump. Through to the Watling, and there's no run.
A young batting lineup, so you've got to be reasonable about the inexperience in the batting lineup. But surely a young batting lineup with, you'd hope, not a great deal of fear. You know, to kind of say to them, look, why don't we have a bit of a go? And if we lose 3 or 4 wickets, well, we'll shut up shop then. But to have got to that stage of just having a go.
Well, Pope and Lawrence are quite fluent players, aren't they? And the idea is, I mean, they have been selected for England because it's believed that they're good enough. Jameson in, and Root just defends late and square of the wicket into the offside. And once more, there's no run. 90 for 2. 10 runs have been scored since the drinks break, though, Michael, in 10 balls, and the rate is only 6.5.
Yeah.
There's some flickering embers of possibility.
But there's only 90 runs been scored in 46.4 overs.
That is the unfortunate backdrop to that statistic, yes.
Yeah, I know it's easy sat up here and in the crowd and you're saying, go on, go for it. But when you think about, it's not a Test Match Championship. There's never, in my eyes, a friendly in Test Match cricket. But these first 2 tests of the summer
Jameson wide of the off stump, left alone, tumbling take by Watling, no run.
are as near to that as you can get. It just shows that when you come off the back of the winter where you've lost games, I think there's a bit of that in this England management.
Bit of confidence.
Well, just don't lose. Don't lose. We can't lose a 4th on the trot. We're very strong at home. When was the last Test match series that England lost at home? It's going back a few years, isn't it? Actually losing the series.
Yeah, they didn't lose to Australia, did they?
No.
It's Sri Lanka in 2014, a 1-0 and a 2-test series.
Long time. Joe Root's not lost a Test series at home, so
Fair point. Jamieson completes the over with full ball that's played slightly aerially, and it's dived over sort of cover point and runs away towards the boundary. Won't get all the way there. 2 more to the total. 92 for 2. Root goes to double figures of that. Sibley has 40. Tim Wallace. I don't know whether to leave this for Simon, actually, because yes, I've got to leave it. It's a long email, so I'm going to leave that for Simon. And either Andy's got something, or Michael, you can continue with your thought.
Yeah, it's always going to be people that would say, go for it and have a go. Who cares if you lose? Well, you're representing your country, so it's you don't want to gift an opposing team a victory. But I think people are fair in saying that England should have had a little bit more of a look today. Been a bit more active. It's a New Zealand team that have been playing confidently. I don't think Kane Williamson has actually created too much drama with his fields. I've looked at him for the last hour and a half, and he would realise that England aren't going for it, and I think he could have created more of a theatre around the bat. Well, that's what it is, Simon. I think you've got an email to read out.
Yeah, Tim Wallace says,
Wallace.
Let's face it, if we'd gone for this total, we'd have lost. Who in our fragile batting order has shown any sign they can score at 4 or 5 and over on this difficult wicket? Only Conway and Burns have doggedly got good scores. There are too many with a T20 mentality these days. It's not that easy to score runs quickly on a 5th day wicket against arguably the best test side in the world. I think Root will argue that. Here is Santner bowling to Sibley, and Sibley comes forward and plays to mid-off. I think Root will argue that he'd rather take the draw than go for it, and almost certainly lose with the likes of Crawley, Lawrence, Bracey, etc. woefully out of form. Resting Butler after his supposedly exhausting contribution to the IPL is laughable. Wasn't it postponed anyway? There's far too much of this pathetic resting going on. Where's Bairstow? Where's his email going? That's the other thing as well. It's getting more and more vituperative as it goes on. Where's Bairstow? The sooner these key guys in Stokes return, the better. All will be quickly forgotten. Santa bowls to Sibley. Sibley stretches forward and squeezes that defensive shot into the onside towards
Timmy Wallace.
Short leg.
Ben Stokes has got quite a severe injury.
Yeah.
So that's why Ben isn't playing. Jos Buttler, you could argue, I do think England have been very, very cautious about resting the players over the last year or so. I think it's becoming a little bit.
Here's Santner bowling to Sibley. Sibley nudges that away. Backward a square on the onside for 1. It'll probably come back for 2 as well. Goes down towards the Warner stand.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too much at times. I think it can be that players can play a bit more. But he makes some valid points. But I just look at this situation. They'd never have known. You don't know unless you have a go. You just never know. I mean, in cricket, and I completely get it. If you get, a couple of early ones from a New Zealand perspective, you're like 10 for 2. Yeah, shut up shot then. But they weren't.
Bowls. Sibley comes forward, plays a short leg again.
They weren't, and maybe England thought they were going to be. So that's why I sent the mentality. Just make sure that you don't risk anything.
But I agree with Tim. I think they thought 273 was too many. I think they thought they would, it would be too hard, and they risked losing. That's tossed right up outside the off stump from Santner. It's not taken by the keeper. It's not taken by the first slip tail. It goes down towards the boundary at the far end in front of the pavilion. They've run 2 byes. They're going to risk a third. No. Why would you risk a third when you've barely risked anything at all this afternoon? So 2 byes to the total.
I just get a sneak suspicion that Joe Root, the captain, he's never lost a test series in the UK. 1 to go at Edgbaston, take the draw here, win at Edgbaston. It's another test series goes by without him losing.
96 for 2. Sibley on 42. Santner moves into bowl to him, and Sibley hits that firmly into the onside for 1, possibly 2. There's a sliding save, throws on its way, and so again, not worth risking the extra 1.
So Sibley in the last 20 minutes has looked busier. My point is, why wasn't he busier 2 hours ago when the game could have just been accelerated towards potentially an England? And it was a long shot. But I've watched him in the last half, and I don't think he's taken that many undue risks. Yeah. But he's got the scoreboard ticking quicker. And I think for Dom to have a long Test match career, he will have to bring something more than what we've seen so far, because he can't just allow decent bowlers to bowl into that channel on the offside and him not scoring, because he's just going to build too much pressure. Again, I go to Australia in many months' time, and you can see the scenario that England win a good toss and they bat okay, and Sibley bats a long time up until that second new ball, and England might get to 180 for 2 or 3, and all of a sudden Cummins, Hazelwood and Stark strike 3 or 4 in that last 10 overs of the day's play, as they often do.
Yeah.
And
Jamieson bowls full, turned away by Sibley through mid-wicket for 1. Root wanted 2 there, but Sibley did not. The throw comes in from de Grand home to the wicket-keeper's end.
And you haven't maximised that element of winning the toss because you haven't been able to go through the gears. So the first 25 overs, we know in Australia, tough. But then it gets pretty flat. And particularly from around 50 to 80 overs, you do have to have players who can take the game on. That's playing in Australia.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a player out there doing so, and then suddenly the second new ball's taken, and it will do something.
So you can have what you think is going to be a good day, but suddenly you find yourself at 220 for 5 or 6 at the end of the first day. Here's Jamieson bowling. Forward goes Root, plays that down towards backward point, and there's no run. Where you were, so I don't know, you were 200 for 2 or something, or 3, and then suddenly you're 6 down or 5 down.
Well, I think in Australia, the first 25, you can score at 2s and not lose too many. That's fine. Then from around 30 to around 50, 55 overs, you want to score at 3s. And then for the last 20 overs, you really want to be scoring at 4, 4.5s, 5s. And that means you get to around 250 going into that second new ball. And then you hope you survive that and you're there for the next day. But so often you see Australia striking those last 10 overs of the day's play.
Jamieson bowls, that's edged by Root down to third man for 4. Ball's going to win the race now. And I say edged, a sort of flick edge really, just almost like a back cut. But nicely played. And England's 100 is up.
But also
49th over.
Yeah, you look at Don, we were watching earlier and think, come on, you just need to go. If he's been ordered by the England management and the captain to say, look, we're just going for the draw, he's actually played the perfect innings for what he's been ordered to do.
Yeah.
If he's been sent out there to have a look and say, look, if you can, give us that platform and then go and try and be busier to get us to somewhere near, that would be the wrong way to have played today.
Jamieson bowls to Root. Root gets the ball just outside the off stump. He opens the face, runs it away, but this time it doesn't go down towards the boundary. It's intercepted before it beats the slip cordon.
But he probably played the perfect innings for what he's been asked to do.
Yeah.
So we must applaud him for that.
Yeah, playing to team orders, it's just not been very exciting. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
It's not a great... I love coming to Lords on a Sunday, but I've had better Sundays at Lords. The World Cup final was on a Sunday, wasn't it?
It was.
Similar crowdish.
It was indeed.
Yeah.
Here's Jamieson bowling and Root defending on the back foot. Also, there was a period, when was it? I don't know, an hour or so ago, where the target was quite similar as well in terms of runs and wickets and overs left.
Yep. What a day that was. I wonder how many of the crowd here today was at that World Cup final. There's loads of Kiwis in.
A lot of them down at Fine Leg, sort of bantering with Wagner down there.
A lot of them giving me a bit of abuse, actually, when I went down to do a bit of telly.
I saw one turning up one of those retro brown shirts.
Yeah, it's your era.
Here's James bowling a short ball, and that's pulled away. Guided pull by Root down towards Fine Leg. Wagner is there, misfield to start with. And then he picks it up and hurls the ball in. 103 for 2, and Root moves to 15.
So 35 off the last 7 overs, 23 off the last 4.
What do you reckon, Andy? Something happening? Something happening in the waters?
Well, it's 170 to win from 26 overs.
Well, I will say, the way that New Zealand used Santner, I don't see him playing at Edgbaston. They've been very the captain's not really been turning to him. There's a bit there for the spinner. And you have seen Edgbaston wickets. You go back to the Ashes, it spun quite a lot. Don't know what kind of pitch we'll get on Thursday, but it can help the spinners, it can help the seamers as well. It's always a good cricket wicket.
Well, it's going to be Santner to begin a new over, but really we should be talking about the main talking point of the day, that quest for rustic brown fence paint outside the off stump. It's a bit like watching paint dry today, isn't it, cricket?
Yeah. So you're after brown paint, are you?
Well, I'm after this rustic brown paint, and it's not available. Well, I need a 5 litre vat of it. There's a 20 litre available, but I need a 5 litre.
Why don't you just buy the 20?
Well, here is Santner bowling a big spinner outside the off stump, and Root tries to crash it through the offside, and he misses it.
Keep some in storage.
Well, yeah, but
Does it go off?
well, yeah, exactly. You don't. You've got to think about it. You're from the north, Michael. You're from Yorkshire.
Well, you're talking about finance here. You don't want to be overspending, do you?
Exactly. You don't want to be overspending. No.
Yeah.
In these tough financial times. Santner bowls a full toss, and Root hits it firmly, but straight to mid-wicket, and there's no run. Anyway, the Reverend Margaret Oldroyd messaged us, having done some research to find some rustic brown fence paint. I've actually looked at your suggestion, Margaret, and it is only the 20 litre tub, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
Scott Newman emailed us as well while painting his gazebo. He's an independent supplier offering help tomorrow. I've got to ring him up, apparently. Back goes Root and guides that towards backward point, and there's no run. Peter Chalk, I haven't seen this one, has also been in contact offering assistance. And lots of people have got in touch on Twitter.
Have you got all, got the numbers?
Yeah, I've got Scott's number. Yeah.
So you're actually going to ring them up?
Well, I'll see.
Well, we need to carry this on to Edgbaston to make sure that you do ring these people. You can't just say you're going to ring and then don't.
Here's Santner bowling, strikes Root on the pad. Into the onside. The problem is, I think Scott's in Reading. You've got to get the paint from Reading to Bristol, so I don't know how he does that.
Well, maybe you go and fetch it.
Yeah, but I think.
Why can't you go and fetch it?
Well, I could, but
you can't be bothered.
Well, one of the benefits of modern day society is you can sort of go on the internet, order it, and someone delivers it.
Just arrives, doesn't it?
Yeah, Santner bowls. Back goes Root, and Root guides it into the offside, and there's no run. And I'm not due down in Bristol for another month. So.
20 litres. That for me seems quite a big tub. It's a big tub, Simon. That'd be quite heavy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And
it must have a big lip.
Yeah. And that's another issue as well, because my mum's 82, so she's obviously going to take delivery of it.
Yeah, she's not going to be able to
to lift it, is she?
No, well, you're going to be there, aren't you? Wouldn't you be there to help out?
Well, I will eventually, but not.
Right, so the delivery happens and they arrive, and then
yeah.
your mum will have to deal with it. Yeah, it can't be the 20 litre.
There's Callum in Edinburgh. A question to be posed. After what period of time does a weathered coat of rustic brown become so rustic as it's deemed to be too rustic and to require a fresh application of rustic brown?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's where we've arrived, folks.
Quite a boring human being, aren't you?
No, listen. It was Dan Norcross who got this going. Yeah. All I was trying to do was help my mum. That was all. I get a long list from her of things that need to be sorted out, and that was just one of them today.
Was that this morning? Was it?
Yeah.
You ordered to get some paint.
Yeah.
Is it quite a big fence?
Not too big. That's why it only needs 5 metres.
So you got a small.
Do you see my predicament?
Yeah, but who's going to paint it? You're going to paint it?
No, she's going to paint it.
Oh, she's going to do it herself.
Yeah. That's why
she just needs the paint.
Exactly. That's why she can't have a huge tub, because she can't pick it up and carry it into the house. It's all been thought through, this, Michael, you know.
It's getting complicated.
It is.
Someone will sort you out. You make those phone calls tomorrow, they'll look after you.
Now, Kane Williamson's going to bowl from the pavilion end of the ground. Route 15, Sibley 44. And Sibley waits for Williamson, and that's down the leg side. I think the best thing is that when I leave the ground tonight is to phone her up and say, Mum, I'm sorry, you just have to be patient. There isn't any around at the moment.
You're going to have to be like Dom Sibley.
Exactly. You're going to have to be like the Hoover Dom, the Rock of Gibraltar. Sibley pulls down towards fine leg. You might get 4 here. Chases on. Wagner's after it towards the fine leg boundary. Knocks it back inside the rope. Well fielded. And they are restricted to 2 runs. And the crowd down there love that fine leg.
Well, they come to life. They love Neil Wagner. Wherever he plays, he always gets a great reception. He's wholehearted.
I bet he's been chatting to them all afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Great fun.
Trying to keep himself up as well in the game. Williamson bowls, nudged away by Sibley for a single, and it's Wagner again. It's not a cheer for the single, it's the cheer for Wagner picking the ball up. Sibley goes to 47. It's 106 for 2. Williamson bowling at one end, Santner at the other, and I just wonder here whether New Zealand are saying, right, we can't win, let's get to the last hour and then we can shake hands.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's 10 overs away. I think that's where we're headed now.
Yeah. It's a lovely week for painting, outdoors. The weather's good.
Yeah.
If you could get that paint quickly, that'd be...
Williamson bowls down the leg side. Root tries a sweep shot. It's taken by Watling. Is that Norcross starting it off this morning? There's just a private conversation in the box along the way.
What you need is a robot. I've got a robot that cuts my garden.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, I call him Raymond. He's beautiful.
Williamson bowls, Root sweeps, coming down fine off something. It won't be 4. Again, it's a chase for Wagner, running round. And 2 runs, I think possibly off the glove.
Well, it's a cracker. You on an app, you can tell Raymond when he goes out to work and when he comes back in.
Did you?
He does 7 till 7.
Did you name him Raymond?
Yeah, Raymond the robot, yeah. Well, my daughter did.
Right.
Yeah, off he goes and trots and trims away.
Presumably you've got to get it out of the shed first, though, have you? Or does it open the shed as well?
No.
Root turns that back with a square for a single.
It's a charging house. So it charges up and then it goes out and it cuts a bit and it goes back in, charges up a bit more and goes back out again. You're looking at me as if I'm lying. I've got one.
Goodness me, the 21st century. What advances we've made.
Exactly.
A robot that opens the door
You
and
don't,
goes out.
you don't need to cut your... Ray doesn't open a door. It's just a little machine that goes around your garden and trims away, and then when it's running out of battery, it goes back in and it charges, and I can control the schedule, and he works 7 till 7.
Right.
So
He never ever goes up to the village for a coffee.
Right.
Doesn't nip off. Doesn't ring in sick.
it's the 21st century version of the goat.
That's exactly what it is.
But you're a very hard taskmaster, making it work from 7 till 7.
Well,
You must have a very big garden.
doesn't have any feelings, you know. It's a robot.
You say
Tell
that.
me off.
That
You
is
say-
so naive, Michael. You never watched a sci-fi film.
Exactly. You say that. Who knows where we're going to go with it? Sander bowls. It's back cut by Root down towards the third man boundary. They've
I
run
think
for
my
2.
robot rings up HR. Well, there he'll be there tomorrow morning. So well, it'll be still going. It's got another hour and a half. And it finishes at 7 o'clock in the morning. Out it trops.
How big's your garden?
It's big enough. You have a little wire. They come and put a bit of wire around the perimeter where it can and can't go, and then it just stays within it.
111 for 2. Santner bowls. Root sweeps. 111 for 2. We're back where we were about 3 days ago, aren't we?
What day was that?
That was the score at the close of the play of the second day. With Root batting. But we're off 111 now. It's 113 for 2.
How many overs left? I'm just
Route
looking at the
22.
one,
Well,
160.
this is the 23 left after this one, so 8 more overs, and then that might well be it. Santner goes in and bowls to Joe Root. It's a full toss, and it's swatted away towards deep square leg, and that's gone for 4. That was a bad ball from Santner, rank bad ball, and dispatched by Root. I mean, there are some captains who bring on bowlers to get the team back in the game and sort of tempt them to go for it, but I don't think that's what's happening here.
Well, one thing's for sure is Santner's doing his chances of playing Edgbaston in the World Test Match Championships no good here. He's bowling poorly, short, and then full. He bowls so many full tosses.
117 for 2. Root to 26. And Root plays a low sweep shot, pull shot down towards deep back with square leg. It's a single towards the Warner stand.
I know he's bowled some bad balls. In the last half an hour, England have suddenly started to show energy.
Yeah.
Where was that 2 hours ago?
Well, I think that's just been a disappointing thing, isn't it? Just show a bit more early on, a bit
You're
more
not asking
intent.
You're not asking them to dance down and try and whack it over the bowlers. So just be busier. That's all we were asking a few hours ago. Nick a few singles, just show a bit of willing.
There are 23 overs left after this one. It's 155 to win. Sibley leans forward a ball that spins. I mean, there is something there for the spinner as well. I really feel like two good spinners on this last day.
Yeah, I agree.
And 2 good Indian spinners on the last day.
Jack
Cause
Leach.
some problems, yeah.
Jack Leach, Nathan Lyons, be licking your lips, wouldn't you?
I'm not saying you'd rip through a team, but you might pick up.
You'd fancy it, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
as a
you'd
spin bowler?
want to bowl, definitely. Forward goes Sibley, pushing that back up the offside. And there is no run. Josh in Exeter says, "Hi Simon, could other people in your mum's area who also have the same fence go in on the 20-litre
now
tin?"
you're talking. It's like crowdfunding for paint.
It's a good suggestion, Josh, but how much? But I mean, that does take even more organising.
Oh, you could be you could be the saviour. Organise this great group of people that suddenly every other year they get together and they buy all this paint.
Well, it's not a bad suggestion.
15 off the last 2 overs, the charge is on. 49 off the last 10. The required rate is 6.74 per over, 23 overs to go.
The old sounding optimistic, Andy, for a run chase.
No, it's not. But the problem I have that the 49 off turn has come without me looking out there and thinking they've taken undue risks.
Yeah.
They've just played and they've just been busy here and they've just asked a question of the bowler.
But has most
That's
of it come
all
off
they've done.
Santner as well? What are we looking at?
They hit Jameson for a few. Joe Root glided him down the third man and played a pull shot. Just a little bit more active.
Who's going off the field at the far end there? Santner, yeah.
I think he's injured.
They'd scored 23 off the 22 overs before that, so even another 30 runs in those 20 overs would be in
then
a
suddenly
good
it's
position
what?
now.
Yeah, then it's 110 off the last 23 with 8 wickets in hand, putting pressure on the fielding side. Then Root sweeps a ball from Williamson down to deep back of square leg. It's picked up by Wagner.
You're going to be busy tomorrow, Simon. Phone calls, emails.
Yeah, I know. I thought we were going to have a day
Zoom calls.
off tomorrow.
Get them all on. Is it team that you're going and get everyone together?
John Dakers. Just a thought. A conspiracy theorist might imagine England's batting lineup was chosen to encourage people into the garden to paint fences. Hence Rustic Brown being out of stock. Do Messrs Root and Co have an interest? Most suspicious. That one's played back with a square on the onside. Wagner sends in the return to wicketkeeper Watling. 120 for 2.
What's the matter? It's all going down the slope. There's a bit of spin with it as well, but deep point on the boundary I think needs to be probably a leg slip.
Root on 28. He is on strike and Williamson goes into bowl and for some reason doesn't deliver. Didn't feel quite right there. So pulled out. There's a short leg and a slip in the sunshine. Lovely weather to end this test match. We just had that one shower today. 10 minutes before lunch. Williamson bowls a rank long hot, which is slapped by Root down towards Wagner at fine leg. He rather missed out there. That was a 4 ball that wasn't dispatched. 121 for 2.
Coming around the wicket. Yeah, the cover point on the boundary to Joe Root, I kind of get because he's got that reverse sweep, but to Dom Sibley, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'd definitely take Andy's point. If England had been a fraction busier and had 30 more runs here, you're looking at 120 off the last 22 overs with 8 wickets in hand, and then you can just even if you don't win the game, you can just subtly put a bit of pressure back on the fielding side, get a panic going. That one was down the leg side, missed. Williamson bowling round the wicket to Sibley. Sibley leans forward, plays it short leg. That's picked up by Latham. Sibley here looking at a half century. He's not had that much batting, to be fair to Sibley, because he had that broken finger. He came into the test match rather undercooked. Sibley nudges that one away back with a square.
There's a leg slip.
Or a single. It was in the air through that leg slip area. So 1 to him, takes him to 49 at the end of the over. 122 for 2. So 22 overs left in theory, but it could well be that we'll have 7 more overs and then that will be it. Of course, in some situations you can declare 10 minutes before the final hour, and then call the game off, because you can't do that because we're in the 4th innings.
Santa's back on the pitch. He just has had the 1 over. It's going to be... Who's going to come on to what's that? Neil Wagner's going to be bowling. The crowd will get going for Wagner. This could be quite good fun. I think the crowd will get behind him.
Here's a thought then, Michael. What do England do for their team for Edgbaston?
I'm thinking about paint. Mind teams. For Edgbaston, I would think... I think Ollie Robinson will miss out. I think there'll be some disciplinary there. I think that's the right decision. I would think that potentially Ollie Stone will come in for Mark Wood. So
that's a like-for-like, pace for pace?
I personally wouldn't do that if Wood's fit and ready to go. I'd like to see Wood play back-to-back.
Okay.
I don't think he's done that much work. But I think they may go that way. And I would think Jack Leach will come in. I think Jack Leach, the spinner, will play if the weather's going to be nice for the next few days.
Wagner bowls. Oh, he lets that one go, Sibley, and it very nearly cannons into his off stump. That swung back in a long way. Wagner can't believe it. Stands in the middle of the pitch with his hands on his head.
It wouldn't surprise me if Craig Overton played for one of Broad or Anderson. So you get your batting, get 3 seamers and Jack Leach your 4th.
Right.
Just depends on the wicket. We'll have to wait and see. If there's a bit of moisture in, you'd probably go without your spinner. But Edgbaston, we saw that in the Ashes in 2019. It's a good cricket wicket, which if I was you'd want all bases covered at Edgbaston, because it can offer a bit of movement and obviously it can offer a bit of tweak. England won't change the batting at all.
No.
It'll be the same.
Wagner bowls to Sibley, another beauty. Sibley plays it and misses it. It goes through low to Watling.
You're looking at the likes of Crawley, needs a few. He'll want to score, and the team will want him to try and find that form that we saw him against Pakistan last summer. Yeah, it's just the bowling makeup, is it? For both teams, I would think that, you know, if I was New Zealand and Patel is a better spinner than Santner, I'd play Patel and just move all the bowlers down one.
Yeah.
Maybe Bolt will play for Wagner or...
Wagner bowls, another fine delivery to Sibley, draws him forward and it goes past the outside edge.
Yeah, you'd think they'd want Bolt to have one game before the World Test Championship final. Whether he needs that because he's bowled so much over the years, but maybe they'll want Bolt to play. We'll
So
have to wait and see.
basically, England shuffling their bowling pack, really.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I personally, if they're all fine, I'd go again. I mean, they've got such a break, the Test players, from next week going through to that first Test against India. You just play again if you're all fit and raring to go.
Wagner to Sibley, who's on 49, and a straight ball pushed by Sibley up towards mid-off, and there's no run. But you think Robinson will miss out? You think
I
there'll be
think
some
so, yeah.
disciplinary action taken there?
I think that'll be the right call. Yeah.
Because there's no doubt he's had a very good game. On performance alone out there, he's almost not quite the first pick
No, but
on the team sheet.
Well,
but
and he will be back. You know, he'll probably have a bit of a suspension, but
Wagner bowls outside the off stump to Sibley again, not tempted. He's earning this half century. It'll be, how many balls he faced? 154 balls.
he's digging in. Yeah, but Ollie Robinson will potentially just miss it, and then I'm sure he'll go through a learning process. And then I hope he, can learn, and then I'm pretty sure we'll see him again in Test cricket. I just think he's looked at a natural at this level. Looks like he bowls perfect length. He's got great skills, and he held the bat nicely. Taking a couple of chances in the field as well. He looks a really good cricketer.
7 wickets in the match and 42 runs in one innings. Wagner bowls. Sibley there was hoping for his half century. It was full. It clipped away into the onside. But straight to mid-wicket. Good delivery from that Wagner, though. Swinging the ball in full. And Sibley nearly falling over.
Andy, how many runs has Sibley got off seam? No, that's quite a question to get a quick
In
answer.
this innings?
Yeah. Scored a lot of runs off the spinners.
Last ball of the over coming up, and then we might well have 6 more overs of the match. Wagner goes in and bowls to Sibley, and Sibley is forward, blocking that. Good over for Wagner, very good over in fact. Still running in at this late stage in the game. And kept Sibley honest in that
no
over.
ball.
Oh, it's a no ball. It's a no ball.
There was one off the second ball of the over as well.
There wasn't. That was picked up, was it?
Yes.
Right, okay. Well, the legitimate balls were good. And everyone was changing over. Wagner's scraping away at the footmarks there on that front line. There's no sort of come back to the umpire these days, because it all goes upstairs, and so if you bowl a no ball, you bowl it. It's not in the opinion of the umpire anymore.
Well,
sometimes bowlers think, I haven't overstepped, do I?
Hey, this will be interesting because they've called for the groundsman, with that big ladder thing, and he fell over yesterday, didn't he, when he ran off with it? The tamper.
Wagner's ready to run in there, and then there's someone moving beneath us. Whether it was the ground staff getting ready to bring on the equipment, that's what it is. Yeah, it was one of the ground staff in front of the sight screen. Wagner to bowl to Sibley. He's with him now, and Sibley lets it go by outside the off stump. And that is the end of the over. I just hold my breath for a moment to make sure it's not another no ball. It's 124 for 2. Root has 29, Sibley has 49. We're going to have a double change here. Dan Norcross is coming in, and Jeremy Coney as well. But first we can hear from Andy Zaltzman.
Answer to Michael's question about Sibley's innings: from spin 19 from 33 balls, from pace 30 from 124 balls, so going at just 1.4 and over against the seamers. Root 15 off 41 from pace, 14 off 22 from spin. So New Zealand spinners, despite some well, some helpful turn and rough have failed to exert any kind of pressure on England's batsmen. Daniel.
It's been a difficult pitch, hasn't it? Either to score runs or to take wickets. For a moment, I wondered if Root and Sibley were sort of trying out the cricketing equivalent of rope-a-dope. Muhammad Ali was absorbing all those punches and then came out and knocked out George Foreman. There was suddenly scampering, there was suddenly energy and activity. But, well, the Tampa's out there now, and he's banging away on the crease, the Tampa that tries to sort of bring, to flatten out the footmarks that have been pounded into over the last 5 days, one of which had no play at all. That's another issue, of course. I mean, we have to try to be proper balance and perspective on this match. It feels disappointing, doesn't it, when a game peters out into a draw, which would be the third consecutive draw in England. Andy Zaltzman will tell us about how rare that is. But a day has been lost to rain, 20-odd overs have been lost to not being bowled. And if they do shake hands at the end, then actually a further, with 15 overs to go, that'll be 36 overs not bowled. So it's difficult to get a result with two teams of high-quality players on a pitch that, whilst not easy to score, is also not easy to take wickets. Santner starts a new over from the pavilion end. His first ball is swept gloriously by Root for 4. Takes him to 33. If you're interested in maintaining hope of an exciting finish, then I'll try to keep you up to date with the run rate required. It's a little bit over 7 at the moment. And when the spinners have been on, England have prospered pretty well. But the over from Neil Wagner showed just how difficult it is to get the seamers away on this pitch. 6.96 is the required rate at the moment. Thank you, Andy. Root to 33, 128 for 2. And Santner is in and Root drives. And it's stopped at short extra cover by Tim Southey. You can watch highlights of the day on the BBC Sport website and app, or from 7 p.m. on BBC Two in Today at the Test, with the likes of Jonathan Agnew, Isha Guha, Ali Mitchell, Craig McMillan, all the stars. And, another sweep from Root, this time for 4, through deep mid-wicket. Those of you who are listening to and or watching the series down in Sri Lanka will remember that Root swept M. Buldenia over and over and over again, and he's shown much the same acuity today. He's got the sweep out on plenty of occasions. With that, he's moved to 37, and 8 runs have come from this over. They're up with the rate. I just a little bit of a thought experiment. If they got another 30 runs in the next 5 overs and needed 110 from 15 overs with 8 wickets in hand, surely worth a dart then, would it be? I don't know. Santner, full toss, swept again out to deep mid-wicket, but there are now fielders back covering the leg side boundary. A bit of a chastening experience this for Santner on a day when no bowlers have... I mean, Wagner's gone 11 overs, 1 for 11. And England's approach has been pretty stolid, but Santner is going at over 3.5 and over. There is a World Test Championship final on the horizon. A decision will have to be made if Trent Boult comes back into the side, which we expect. Who would drop out? Might there be another spin option for New Zealand? Here's Santner and Sibley. Let's just go by outside the off stump. No run. Sibley on 49, don't forget, from 158 balls. He's in danger of being left high and dry at the moment. With 5 overs to go after this before we reach the final hour, which is the point at which the teams can shake hands if they want on a draw. And Sibley does essay an attacking stroke, a square drive, but he can't beat Conway at backward point. And there's no run. End of the over, 9 from it. Root 38, England 133 for 2. 140 more to win in 20 overs with 8 wickets in hand. There will be people, and I do realise that this has vexed a lot of listeners. There are essentially 2 camps here, Jeremy. Our listeners fall into the camp. Well, I'll come to it shortly, because commentary continues on 5 Live Sports Extra, digital radio, online and via the BBC Sounds app. But Radio 4 long-wave listeners are leaving us ever so briefly for the shipping forecast. Yes, there are two camps in our listeners, and they are, this is a test match, and test matches are sacred, and you do not give anything up, and it's a 2-test series, and England were always going to struggle to get their highest score of the match on a slow, difficult, grabby surface against a very good side that are in the World Test Championship final as Wagner starts a new over from the nursery end, and Root lets this go by outside the off stump. No intent there. It's taken by Watling. And since the chances of victory were so low, the correct, prudent thing to do is to ensure they don't lose. So when they go to Edgbaston, it's tied at 0-0. We've got a 1-test shootout. And then there are others who say, this is about entertainment. We've been waiting for cricket for ages. The sun is shining. We have a crowd back at Lord's. It was only 3.6 and over. There are young players in the team of flamboyant stroke makers like Pope and Lawrence. They want to see something of Bracey, perhaps, as Wagner is in. Left arm over. Worked nicely through the onside by Root. It's running up towards the grandstand. It might be cut off with a dive. It is cut off with a splendid dive. And I think they've only come through for 2 there. Is that right, Andy? It was just the 2. I thought there was an option of a third there. But anyway, a Root to 38. 2 more to the total. And our listeners have been polarised. Jeremy, what's your perspective on England's approach to this, I say chase, this sort of stalk, this sort of suspicious glance at 273 to win?
Oh, dear. Look, I don't mind a blocked out draw.
Wagner is into Root. And Root defends solidly and late. Square of the wicket into the offside. There's no run.
I mean, cricket can be attritional. We both know that. And sometimes that's the beauty of the game, and that you can fight like mad and earn a draw. This did feel a little different to me today. I do wonder what has it done for England. What has it added to the England side, the way that they've approached this? I'm not sure I can answer that.
Wagner in to complete the over, and bad run to the pad. That was very close given. Root has instantly referred. Unless he's got an inside edge on this, it feels quite out, although he's actually signalling with his bat that he thinks the ball may have gone down the leg side. If you're just rejoining us,
the decision is out
from Radio 4.
We've got a delivery.
We have a review.
Can we have a look at front on spin vision, please?
A bit of drama. Wagner's very excited by this. It looked out straight up. It's not pitched outside leg stump, and it's hit him in front of leg stump.
Doesn't appear to be any bat. Roll it through.
No, that's gone past.
Okay, let's just have a look at Ultra Edge, please, to confirm no bat there, please.
I think Root thought that was swinging down the leg side.
Yes, that might be right, but he hasn't hit that, has he? The ball's hit the pad.
Yep.
And then the bat arrives.
Roll it through.
Right,
okay.
We're going to get a ball
no bat
tracking
involved, so we can go through to ball tracking when ready, please.
It's pitched in line.
Pitching in line, impact in line.
Hitting.
Wickets
Yes.
hitting.
Very, very out. It looked out.
We'll go
at
back to
first
Michael on
glance.
field to stay with his original decision. You're on screen now, Michael.
We have a wonderful view here at Lord's, absolutely beautiful view from bowling from the nursery end, and that just looked out. Root seemed convinced that it was actually going down the leg side, or maybe he thought that it had pitched outside leg stump, because it was quite tight on pitching according to the ball tracking. But with Root gone for 40, New Zealand have their breakthrough, and they've got an opportunity here in the next 4 overs before we get to the last out. They pick up another wicket or 2. We might not be finishing with 15 overs to go, because they're very mindful of England's long tail. But let's resume our conversation. Root goes back, walks up the pavilion steps, LBW to Wagner for 40 from 71 balls. Root showed what was possible actually today, and 40 off 71 balls was kind of the rate they needed at the start of the innings. He's an exceptional player, of course, their best batter, so perhaps that's not a fair reflection. But you posed the question, what have England got out of this?
What has it added to England?
What has it added, yeah?
In the way that they approached the task.
I mean,
and I'm not sure we really we can be so clear about that.
I mean, as a captain, You've captained in many situations, and can you say hand on heart that your approach in a similar situation with your team would have been different? And if so, why would you have adopted a different approach?
The answer to that is I would have had a go at this total, and I would have been prepared to set little targets along the way for players, and I don't think that would have stretched them too much.
Wagner has got another delivery left, and it's Pope who's facing it, and he's been beautifully. Oh, what a lovely ball from Wagner to get that first up. Pope, that has swung back towards him, and it's just beaten his outside edge. There's still another ball to go. This feels like there's still two more balls to go.
Yes, you jumped ahead of yourself. Also,
I really did.
There was a no ball.
Oh, there was a no ball. That's. Thank you, Andy. I'm so sorry. I'm so fixated on trying to get to the bottom of England's approach with Jeremy Coney that I've forgotten to count how many balls there are in the over. But there are two more balls left, and they could be testing the way Wagner's getting the ball to swing. Here he is in again, and that's left alone by Pope. That ball didn't swing, it sort of just went across him into Watling's glove. So yes, you're talking about the approach you'd have taken. You'd have perhaps set some targets.
Well, just the same as normal teams do, don't they? And I don't think they would have stretched players too much, to be
so
really honest.
2.5 and over after 10.
Well,
maybe,
between 2.5. That's been scored without people trying so far in the match. 2.7, something like that for England. New Zealand maybe a little bit more than that in their first innings. I don't know, but it would be around there. So you're in the game.
Wagner is in, and that's worked into the onside. Another ball swinging back into the pads of Pope. It's really good bowling from Wagner. 2 for 14 from 12 overs, and he's bowled every inch of those. 136 for 3. Sibley still there, 49 not out. Pope yet to score. Andy?
Just something on Root's recent form in home tests the last 2 summers. He's not been out in his first 30 balls in a total now of 10 innings. But only once has he lost till his 100th ball. Just 1 half century. He's been out 3 times in the 40s, a couple of times in the 20s, and a couple of times, 3 times in the 20s, and twice between 10 and 20. So he's getting starts, and through the majority of his career, he's one of the best players at converting starts, at least into a half century. Always had a problem converting half centuries into centuries, but his quarter century to half century conversion rate was up there with the best of all time until the last 18 months or so. And I don't know if there's an issue with his.
Is that it? Could be the pitches? It'd be interesting to see
pressures
other players.
Who knows?
At the same time, well, Santner's out of the attack. Southey's in. New Zealand going for the jugular, and Sibley leaves us alone outside the off stump. I say the jugular. They've got 19 overs to try to prize out 7 wickets. So the other side of this, I guess, is you've got players like Pope and Lawrence and Bracey in the side at 5, 6, 7. You want to find out about them. The approach that England took was so extreme in that middle session, with 46 runs coming off the bat. In how many overs were bowled? In the afternoon session.
32. So yeah, they were 56 for 2 and with 10 extras.
32. Now you see, Southey is in once more, and Sibley's going to get his 50 with this. Dabs it into the onside. He's looking for a second. No, he says. Nearly sold Pope down the river, and the crowd rushes. There are people on their feet, I tell you, around the ground. They're desperate to cheer for something, and they've got something. They've got a half century from Dom Sibley, his 7th score above 50 in Test cricket. He's got 200s and 5 scores between 50 and 99. Happy with that, Andy? Thank you. It's one of Andy's bugbears. He can't bear the idea of it being a 5th 50 if someone's got hundreds as well. So, and I guess the point you're then making is, say, 2.6 and over in those 32 overs, and instead of 1.5 and over, they've scored another 40 runs. They're on 170 for 3, and it may be 170 for 4, maybe, but then that would leave 100 to win from 19 overs.
Well, that's part of the problem that I see. That I don't think England.
Southey is in to Pope. Pope clips this gloriously out through square leg for 4. It was on his pads. Southey is attacking those pads and those stumps exactly as he did in the first innings. We talked about it a lot in Pope's innings. He stands on off stump or just outside, and as a result he encourages the bowler to zero in on the pads looking for the LBW. Pope has to trust to his eye, and it came off very well there. A lovely, elegant shot, beautifully timed down to the boundary for 4, and our crowd, our Sunday crowd, which I think is imbibed a fair bit by now, is cheering whenever it can. And Williamson has now put somebody out at deep square legs. There's a bit of negativity on both sides here, you might say. Southey in, worked into the onside by Pope, straight to short mid-wicket, no run. Sorry, Jeremy, I
No,
interrupted you.
not at all. I didn't think that England really could say to themselves, we don't think we can bat for 2 hours if we're 4 or 5 down. It says these are the messages that I take as an ex-player. I would also think they should know if they come off, they should know they could win. When I say come off, play their shots, get some toes, they should win this game.
Southey bustles in to Pope. Pope drives into the offside, can't quite beat de Grandhomme, who sprawls to his left to field, still wearing that floppy sun hat, and there's no run.
And I think there's a bit of an imperative that captains need to be able to do is engage your players. Engage your players and get them involved in the game where they want to be able to express who they are, what sort of people, just the way that the skills that they have, and they can put it up and punch it out and put it on display. And you've got to back those players, and you've got to allow the players to do that, to say, no, we are not going for this. If that was ever said, I'm not suggesting that, but if it was that kind of message.
Southey in, and Pope lets this go outside the off stump, a little bit wide of off stump, end of the over, 141 for 3. The target, if it is a target, is 273. Another 132 would be required in that case from 18 overs. Sibley 50, Pope 4.
You must allow players to do that, and as I say, where they enjoy playing the game. It's not thinking about the crowd. You asked me about the crowd really before that, but I think I have responsibilities to my players, and they're the ones that I want to engage in the game, and always try and keep them interested if I can. The way you try and keep taking wickets, the way you're trying to win the game, and only stopping trying to do that when you know damn well that you can't.
And it felt like that
because it's not much fun to play, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's
in a situation that you had today.
Wagner starts a new over, defended on the front foot by Sibley, back to the bowler, swinging delivery back into the pads. There's no run.
I wouldn't have to not have a crack for at least say 3 or 4 wickets, at least, and not have a crack. I would have felt I'd have been letting those players down.
Do you think if England had, say, Buttler and Stokes in this lineup, that they would have adopted a different approach? And if you do think that, what does that say about what they think about the players they do have?
Well,
Sibley defends up to de Grandhomme at mid-on.
I
There's
think
no run.
These are the ones that they've decided to represent England in this match. It's been selected that way, so these are the best 11 that you'd have to say at the moment we can select. Do you think that these players can't play? Do you think that Pope is not an exciting player? Do you think that someone who gets 267 can't play? Do you feel that...
I don't, but
you got a number 3 batting 7. OK, didn't do so well in the first dig, but it's another bat for him. You think that he can't play? Your number 7 got 40-odd, didn't he?
8, yes.
So
number 8,
yes. Sorry, yeah. I just feel... So that's how I would feel. I mean, other captains might feel entirely differently. I don't blame Sibley for this. Sibley has obviously been told, just go out and play.
Wagner is into Sibley, and Sibley defends cautiously. Another ball that's just shaping back into him. It's full, and he gets on the front foot and pushes to de Grandhomme again. There's no run on the onside.
So there is an element of, I suppose, diffidence and a bit of timidity. I felt that we've seen, an uncertain and lack of confidence about themselves.
Which doesn't really help when you go to the next game, does it? So it's all very well going to the next game 0-0, but you're suggesting perhaps that a signal has been sent, which is a lack of confidence in the team's ability. Wagner in, that's defended again late, but this time onto the offside, the gully region by Sibley, and there's no run.
I don't know what messages were sent, to be honest. All we can engage in what we've seen, and I don't think that I've seen really... innings is the way you want to push. You don't have to go from hitting hard and taking risks, and we might call it slogging, or blocking. There are plenty of middle area between those two options
That's the
to push around
Yep.
and take singles, to look for a single aggressively.
I think that is the gripe, I think, if it can be summed up. Full and dug out by Sibley to de Grandhomme. There's no run that has, I think we amply demonstrated, 46 runs off 30-odd overs off the bat. You think that really, is it a massive ambition to have scored 65 runs off 33 overs off the bat? And you do that and suddenly the equation is different down the line. It's 75 overs is a lot of overs.
Well, of all the futures that were available at lunch, this wasn't the one that I would like to have taken.
Wagner in again, comes forward. Sibley pushing out into the offside, fielded by Santner in the covers. End of the over, a maiden over. Wagner, the other part of this is that the bowling of the likes of Wagner, Southey, Jameson has been exceptional. They're very fine bowlers, and it's been very difficult to get Wagner away. He's 13 over 7, made 2 for 14, and not.
Well, have we seen
entirely
anyone
unfair.
try and come out of the
That's true.
batting crease?
That's true.
They
There's
are
no
bowlers
attempt
that
there.
bowl along the pitch because they are swing bowlers. They bowl a different length than England bowl. England bowlers come in and they'll bowl 1.5 to 2 feet shorter. They hit from up higher and they hit the track harder, and they get movement and they get up and down movement because they are like that. Our bowlers, and when I say our, the New Zealand bowlers bowl much more hitting the pitch, more of a, you hear of
Glancing.
kissing the wicket, don't you? You
Yeah,
hear
kissing,
of those,
yeah.
and that's the style of bowling it is, which you can drive. You can start affecting if you move out of your crease, then you go back and you move around. Once you get yourself set a bit more, you can get drives away. It is possible to score.
It's an attacking length, isn't it? Exactly. Southey in from the pavilion end, and Pope works his ball into the onside. He's still looking busy, as he always does. It's the way he plays, and he'll get a single for it as Jameson has to move from mid-on to mid-wicket to field. He goes to 5, 142 for 3. It brings Sibley back on strike. He has 50.
So I've said enough on that.
Well,
You know how I feel
I do.
about this. I thought we had an excellent, just even a view of a team like New Zealand who was struggling a bit. Taylor and those people, but they gave it a crack. He ended up with 30. It might improve his game, it might not. But he got 30. Would have scratching round for 9, batting properly. Would that have helped? No, probably not. He gave it a bit of a go, It's possible.
He'll have the memory of that 6, which is always quite a handy thing to have for confidence, isn't it? Southey into Sibley, bouncer, very high bouncer, over shoulder height, signalled by.
But
Dr.
Sibley may
Category.
get a lot of confidence from this innings.
Well, also he'd come in very poor form. That's 47.
Well, he hadn't played much, had he?
Well, he hadn't played much this season. He had a poor end to the winter after a couple of decent half centuries.
Well, who had a good one?
Well, Root, and that was it.
Yeah, but not so much after that first test.
No, well, he did
in India. I'm talking about India.
So 3 big hundreds to start England's winter, 2 in Sri Lanka, 1 in India.
And then no one scored a run.
No,
really,
that's
on
right.
difficult wickets. Southey in again, and Sibley just defends up to mid-on off the front foot. No runs. Jameson picks up.
Sibley had scored 47 in his previous 8 innings, so this is an important return to him personally. The interesting thing about his relatively young career is his 19th test, averaging 22 in first innings, 45 in second innings. This is his 7th 50-plus score, as you said, Dan. He scored only 2 of them in first innings and 5 of them in second innings.
I wonder what that says. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Don't know. Southey, top of his mark, runs in. Only 1 slip and a gully. Short mid-wicket catching. Short again. Sails over his shoulder.
The other thing that occurs, Dan,
no run.
If I think back to the 70s and the 80s, because that was the period that I was engaged in the game, so I know it a little bit better. I would have thought there would have been maybe 30 to 40 players would have got 1,000 runs in the domestic season playing 3-day to 4-day cricket. And probably 10 of those, maybe more, might have got 1,500.
Played more of it.
Now, I would have thought...
Southey in. Sibley lets it go by outside the off stump, goes too low to Watling, no run.
Nowadays, in 2020, 2021, you might get 4 players get 1,000 runs in a
Domestic
county season.
Yep. They play about
or 4 or 5
games, maybe.
And I don't know how many of those who get 15. Probably not any get 1,500 runs in the season.
Sangakkara, I think, was probably the last.
Overseas player.
Yeah.
So, if you are going to push your game to an area where it's very difficult to score runs for opening batsmen, if we're talking about Sibley, to April and May and September.
Southey in to complete the over. Sibley works this out to deep square leg for a single, means he will keep strike. 143 for 3 at the end of the over. Sibley has 51. There are 16 overs left to be bowled, or maybe 1, because they can shake hands at the end of the next over if New Zealand want to and if England want to.
But you can see my point about the numbers there alone, just the numbers of runs that are being scored. They play during better times of the year. And to use those months in different ways, it seems if you prioritise different formats, then there is going to be a consequence of that. And the consequence is that you get these types of players. It's pretty simple. 70 mile an hour, 75 mile an hour bowlers can get wickets in April. Pretty hard in August.
But isn't it, I mean, there's another side of this which always slightly amused me, which is those who are infuriated by the number of T20 players there are. They don't have a proper technique and no one can defend properly. Well, these guys have been brought up on T20 cricket, but they've eschewed 3.6 over 75 overs.
Well, it's
so,
certainly...
there's a curious paradox going on
for the
here.
modern player, it wasn't a difficult equation, was it, for them today? At
Didn't feel
3.7,
like
that's right.
I want to set a hair running, just in case it's the last over with Andy. There's a test match that England played in New Zealand when they were set a very modest target of around 240 in 70-odd overs, and they didn't go for it then. It would be in the 1960s, away in New Zealand. J.T. Murray was on that tour. I think Boycott was on that tour. Wagner is into Sibley, and Sibley comes forward in defence, pushes back up the wicket. There's no run.
But the 1960s was the most cautious era of Test cricket. If you break it up into decades, the run rates were slower in the 50s, but the result percentage was higher. I mean, England played 47 away Tests in the 1960s. They drew 34 of them, won 9, lost 4 over that 10-year period.
Caution,
so cricket was essentially just slowly dying at that point. There were even Ashes series when England didn't really go for wins when they needed to stay alive in the series.
Wagner in, and Sibley works this into the onside. Well, not even a thick inside, inside half of the bat, I think, down towards long leg, but it is cut off before it gets there, and he'll receive another run to his name. 144 for 3. Pope is back on strike. It stands out as a curiosity, perhaps, but it's emblematic of how cricket used to be played. Now, we've got so used to cricket being played with a more dashing and positive intent, you might say, and that's sort of what has made today feel anomalous. And Jeremy, as I sum up your point, it is that if you were in this England team, you're not really getting as much out of it today as you might otherwise have done. You'll come off feeling just a little bit empty, perhaps. So Wagner is in, thick edge from Pope, but lands well in front of a diving Southey at second slip. There's no run. Would that be a fair summation?
Well, there's been plenty of fine openers for England, haven't? I mean, you think of Trescothick, and you think of, I don't know, Alex Stewart and Graham Gooch, shot players, and I would have to say, those players that I mentioned, they would be looking to chase this total today.
Well, Alistair Cook, I think, would have been as well, actually, because Alistair Cook was capable of rotating strike, wasn't he? So Wagner is in, and Pope nibbles at one outside the off stump, and got an edge on that. Well, look, we're going to find out in a couple of balls' time, whether this Test match is about to come to an abrupt and slightly disappointing end, or whether we've still got a little bit longer to go.
That Test you were talking about was the third and final Test of the 1965-66 series. England used to play New Zealand generally after Ashes series.
What was the score in the series?
It was 0-0 after 2. England was set 204 to win.
204?
And finished 159 for 4 after 75 overs.
I mean, wow. Wagner driven nicely by Pope into the gap. Santner has to run to his right to field. They'll only get the single for it. So I guess the reason I bring that up is I just want to put a bit of perspective to those who are really angry that some people grew up in watching cricket in 1966 and saw England not bother to try to reach 159 for 4 in 75 overs, chasing 204 would be deeply frustrating. To win a series, Jeremy, can you imagine coming out of, what would the players feel about coming out of that? Now, this could be the last ball of the match. Let's see. Wagner is into Sibley. Sibley works this off his pads down towards deep backward square leg. They're scampering. He's thinking of a second. They're not going to take it. Just the one run. 146 for 3. Sibley has 53. Pope has 6. That's the end of the over. The tamper is being called for. Players are milling around. There are men with tabards coming down the steps, and I'm not sure that the game is about to end. Actually, there's gloves are being taken off, drinks are being produced. We'll just have to read the runes of this for a little while. If the game isn't, your insight here would it be that England would be very happy to shake hands? So that if the game's continuing, it's because Kane Williamson's saying, no, we've just recently got a wicket, 7 to get and 15 overs, we're going to give it a go.
Well, he's brought back the faster bowlers.
Yep.
He's taken Santner off. He's tried Santner. Santner hasn't quite done the job.
When did Jameson last bowl, Andy?
Jameson last bowled in the 49th over.
And we're at how many now?
Just had 60.
Right.
60, so 11 overs ago.
That was just a 2-over spell, though.
Right. So he could certainly come back. Southey's had a few recently, hasn't he, Andy?
Just 2. He bowled from the 31st through to the 39th, but since then just these last 2 overs.
Wagner seems indefatigable and capable of bowling incredibly lengthy spells. I think there's a statistic about his spells of over 8 overs. Did you give me that one, or did I might have got that from a different podcast, perhaps? Well, it doesn't look like the game is about to end. Well, no, I can tell you it isn't about to end right now, because New Zealand are in a conclave. Jeremy Coney is leaving us to ruminate further. Thank you very much for those well-considered and trenchant but thoughtful opinions. Vic Marks is readying himself. That 7 o'clock train isn't happening, and the England batters are being administered to by men with yellow tabards. The New Zealand team are all in a gaggle. The game will continue with England 146 for 3, 127 runs still required for what would now be a remarkable victory at 8.5 and over with 15 overs left. Sibley might be a bit of a roadblock to that on 53. Pope has 6. Thoughts on what you've seen from Vic Marks? And then replacing me will be Simon Mann.
Yeah, well, there was the option of shaking hands, but the Kiwis... there was a giveaway when the groundsman was summoned with his mallet to hammer away at the foothold. So obviously Neil Wagner, he wants to bowl a bit more. 7 wickets are required. There are 15 overs left. We've seen stranger things happen than 7 wickets falling in 15 overs. It would be a calamity for England to lose from here. But the Kiwis, well, they've been enterprising throughout. They made a very good declaration. And they're not going to give up. There's a sign from the umpires to say the last hour is commencing. And Southey, who's been terrific in this match, with the ball and in the field, took a brilliant catch. He's going to keep going. They're not work shy, these Kiwis. They're getting good preparation, actually, for the trials ahead. And the more formidable task of trying to beat India down in Southampton in the World Test Championship.
I think the way to go now for England is try and knock them off. 127.
If you want to stay out here,
if you want to stay out, we're going to take you on now. Here's Southey bowling a bouncer, but it doesn't happen. Sibley ducks underneath it, and it's through to Watling. It's unlikely, but that sort of yo-yo scenario. The 2 batsmen will have been looking towards Kane Williamson.
Yeah.
And
said, well, shall we? Should we? Shall we? It's in a typically British way. They would have said, shall we? Anyway, that was not forthcoming. So if they happen to smack 3 or 4 fours in an over, Kane Williamson might come back with we could do if you like. Anyway, we go on. A beautiful, beautiful sunny evening at Lord's.
Yeah, why would you walk off when the sun's shining like this? Here is Southey bowling, and Sibley stands up and pokes that into the offside. Picked up by de Grandhomme away to his right-hand side at cover. And there is no runs. It does feel a little bit futile, it has to be said, but I'm sure there have been matches in the history of the game where 7 wickets have fallen inside the last hour.
I think of 2 people who would have quietly punched the air if... Actually, I probably could think of more than 2 people, but I'm thinking of 2 in particular who punched the air if the players have walked off, and they are Messrs Lawrence and Bracey.
Yeah. Southey running smoothly in, bowls to Sibley, knocks that into the onside for a single, forward a square, and goes to 54. What we should emphasise is that they could call it off at any moment in the last hour. They could just agree to say, actually, no, that's fine, we don't think we can force a result in the game. Well, clearly there is still time to force a result in the game, but both ways, but extremely unlikely.
Only really one way now.
Yeah, 7 balls.
Yeah, it only takes 7 balls, they say, from the slip cordon. But yeah, poor Lawrence and Bracey, both on pairs.
Is that why New Zealand's staying out there, to try and...
Could be.
I just think they quite like playing, and I think Wagner's enjoying his spell. He didn't bowl too well in the first innings, he's been getting better and better.
Southey bowls, Pope sets off a single, it's not there towards mid-on.
Misfield.
Then actually if they'd gone for the single, or if they'd then looked back, Pope had turned his back, they would have got the single, because it was a complete misfield from the man coming in from mid-on, Jameson. But Pope, I'm not quite sure what he was doing there, and Sibley's come down the pitch to have a word with him, so just steady on.
It was fair enough for the Kiwis. Lord's is, a good place to play. It only comes round once in every 4 years, possibly. Well, unless there's a World Cup final as well and all that sort of stuff. They like it.
Southey bowls to Pope. Pope gets one outside the off stump, lets it go, and it is through to Watling. I know you were one who thought that England would go for it, not should go for it, but would go for it
thought they
today.
Would have a look.
And that hasn't happened. 147 for 3.
I suppose in hindsight, what I'm thinking is that if they were going to go for it, actually it would have made sense to use Sibley as your potential anchor and sent out Crawley to play your natural game rather than sending out Sibley to play his natural game.
Pope waits, 2 slips in the gully in, Southey bowls to him outside the off stump, coming back down the hill, he let it go there, and it was very close to his off stump.
But I am disappointed, just both as a spectator, but also, England is supposed to be an up-and-coming, ambitious cricket team wanting to improve. Well, all they've improved is their capacity to grind out a draw, which is not so exciting, really.
One thing I would say about that, it doesn't happen very often where a team grinds out a draw on the final day.
No, we have had a day of... It's a 4-day game, I suppose. Yeah. It's been a good pitch, actually. Not you always want a bit more pace, but there's been always just something there for the bowlers. It's turned a little bit today. We haven't seen much quality spin at all. I mean, I'd quite like to see Leach bowling on this last day. See what he would have got out of it.
Wagner bowls to Sibley, and Sibley turns this uppishly past short leg towards deep back of square leg for 1. They're coming back for the second. Jameson hurls the ball, a difficult one for Watling, takes it very efficiently. It was just in front of him in the rough as well. And not a very sympathetic return from Kyle Jameson from the deep, out of the shadows as well, cast by the Warner stand.
They've actually scored more freely too, England, in the last hour, and it kind of makes it look worse. If they end up at 180 for 3, you'll think, well, couldn't you have been a bit more ambitious here?
Wagner to Sibley. Sibley knocks a defensive shot into the offside towards cover. What do you think about Edgbaston? I asked Michael his thoughts about the team for Edgbaston earlier. What do you think they will do, should do, could do?
Well, I think Robinson will be absent. And we'll just see how they present that at some point, I guess.
There is going to be a statement after play today regarding the Ollie Robinson situation.
We don't
know when exactly.
Unprecedented set of circumstances. They've had plenty of time to mull it over now.
Wagner bowls short, Sibley ducks underneath it, goes through to Watling.
I mean, once they decided not to take what would have been a very striking action, which was to withdraw Robinson from the match after the first day, which would have sent an extraordinarily powerful message, but it would have been quite a radical decision to make, with all the queries of, well, do we play with 10 men then? Well, probably they would have done.
Yeah.
Anyway, once that was, I don't know whether they discussed that, but once that idea was shunned, they've had 3 days to contemplate it. And it's very hard to think what is appropriate, because it's a unique set of circumstances. We haven't got any precedents.
Wagner bowls full, Sibley comes forward, plays a poking shot into the, well, intended to go into the offside, went into the onside towards mid-on, no run.
And we've listened to Robinson's statement, which suggested that he has recognised, if you like, his stupidity way back. I mean, but they'll take some action. Whilst logging that he got 7 for 101 in quite a lot of overs, as well as getting 40-odd in his Test debut.
Wagner bowls short again, Sibley right underneath a skiddy short ball.
I mean, I'm hoping it's... Actually, I think it would be in England's interest to turn up and find a pitch that spun a bit, because I would back Jack Leach, certainly against Santner, to have an impact, with Joe as a second spinner. I prefer Root as the second spinner. But they will have that balancing act again. Depends what pitch they find there. I suppose they'll keep the same batsman, unless they ditch one and have more bowlers in their team.
Yeah, Wagner bowls another short ball, and Sibley ducks underneath that one as well. And it's through to the keeper, and on we go. So we've had 2 overs in the last hour. We can have 15, a minimum of 15. If they bowl them quickly, we can have more than that. It's 149 for 3.
I don't think they'll do that. I'm not sure Wagner's... Is Wagner going to... Well, he's just finished, isn't he? So Southey, he's not work shy. He wants to keep bowling.
The subject of England's lack of initiative. In the first 42 overs, they had just 33 scoring shots, and they ended up needing 140 from the last 20 overs. So it would have taken a lot to make that a much more manageable target.
I mean, I'm frustrated, but I have to stand corrected, which I don't like having to be corrected.
Southey bowls outside the off stump, no straight from Pope, taken by Watling.
Because I think this was your gut feeling, I think, was that they'll play for the draw, and I know a few of the guys down below automatically felt that. But somehow my antennae thought, hang on, this is a rare opportunity, this sort of declaration, and a great challenge for the team, albeit a young team, but who cares? It's not the end of the world if a run chase had failed here and they'd been beaten. I don't get the...
Do you think there would have been a sympathetic press, wouldn't there?
Of course there would.
Yeah. If they'd lost by 15, 20 runs or whatever.
And we'd had a great afternoon of nail-biting cricket.
Southey bowls, guided away by Pope down towards backward point, and there is no run.
And I do think there's been a loss of perspective, because we have been living in extraordinary times, and we had what was a remarkably uplifting series actually last summer, when we thought there'd be nothing, and there was some surprisingly good cricket in empty stadiums, yet the sort of tension and commitment of both sides was brilliant, I thought. And you thought here was the chance to sort of celebrate, not exactly a return to normality, but spectators in the ground enjoying an old pleasure.
Southey went to bowl then and then pulled out at the last moment. I hope he's just lost his footing. It's one of those where you thought for a moment he might have pulled something, but he's actually walking back. Okay, so it suggests that he hasn't pulled something. I think he just slipped as he was going to bowl there. So it was one of those moments of concern. But
so I'm not asking us to emulate the sort of what I imagine was the sort of gaiety of the victory tests after the Second World War, when they came back and they smashed it all around the ground and Keith Miller, and all was peace and light. But I thought, that coming back, there might be just that element of celebration, and there are no points at stake. And let's sort of pretend that the World Test Championship really it does matter.
Southey bowls and Pope drives, lovely looking shot, but straight to de Grandhomme at extra cover, and there's no run.
So it's what they call a free hit or a free game in a way, this one. And no one would have, I don't think, chastised them if they'd had a go and failed.
But they've taken sort of hard-nosed, sort of almost old-fashioned, sort of ruthless, sort of old pro sort of view, haven't they? Really pragmatic.
Well, they seem to have done.
We don't think we can get it.
I will be intrigued when Paxman Agnew gets amongst them, or whoever it is, and just asks Joe, who usually is very proactive as a captain, to be fair.
Southey to Pope down the leg side. Pope tries to glance it, misses, taken by a sprawling Watling.
Ask Joe, what was the plan when you got news of the declaration, which I suspect would have surprised them a little bit? Was it immediately that this is beyond us? Was it the wishy-washy, well, we'll see where we are at tea time? Or what? I'd like to know. And perhaps I'll find out tomorrow in my newspaper, or listening to various outlets on the BBC. Indeed.
273 off 75 overs was the declaration.
Oh, that's a bad run, and it's a bad piece of fielding.
Pope pinches a single into the onside. Again, Jameson comes in from mid-on. Again, he misses it. And it's curious, isn't it, to take a single like that when you're not looking to win the game, and it's a really risky one. But I know you've got to play normal cricket, but actually, if you pick that up, there was a big run-out chance on.
Well, I guess it's just a misjudgment. I think,
but twice it's happened.
Yeah. I think when you're batting in this situation, it helps to be positive in outlook. Not in going to play big shots, but it helps actually to score a few runs too. It cheers you up a bit. And Pope wanted to rotate the strike there, but he has been a bit frenetic. He was in the first innings, actually. He just needs a big long innings to calm him down, I think.
He's on 7. Sibley's on 56. It's 150 for 3. We're in the third over of the last hour. It's 123 to win. Southey bowls, full to Sibley, who clips it straight to mid-wicket, and there's no run. There's a leg slip in now, rather than an orthodox slip. Well, there was for that final ball, the over. Ross Taylor went over. That one off the hip from Sibley that you feel he can... Well, he has been dismissed like that in Test cricket, where he can't control the ball on his hip.
Yeah, but having said that, that's his big run-scoring area, so I don't think he needs to restrict that greatly. Just keeping an eye on Kane Williamson, or actually I'm trying to find him at the moment, as to how long they're going to keep going.
He's coming down to have a chat with his bowler Wagner, who's going to continue.
He obviously hasn't looked at the timetable of the Great Western Railway, so they're making his decision. Not that it concerns me greatly.
It's all right, Victor. There's one about...
I know.
There's one about 10 o'clock that gets in at 3 in the morning.
Yes, indeed.
It's the sleeper to Penzance. So if you end up getting that one, don't fall asleep.
No, I'll try not to.
Wagner begins a new over from the nursery end and bowls to Pope, who's forward, playing it up towards straight mid-off. There's no run. Williamson runs to his right, I think, to pick up.
I think Wagner's enjoyed this afternoon's play because he's found a lovely rhythm bowling. He's barely bowled a short ball, actually, but he has got the ball to swing a little bit, and he's beaten the back quite a few times, and he might think, I've got 2 wickets, I could have easily had 3 or 4.
Man's going out now.
He might just have a little dart at the short pitch ball now.
It's Pope out towards square leg. It's Conway who's gone out there. Here's Wagner bowling full, and Pope drives in through the offside gloriously for 4. Well, it was the bluff. He sent the man out, he pitched it up, and Pope crashed it down to the tavern stand past Santner for... it's a delicious shot from Pope, the best of Pope. It was in the air a fraction, but he really went after that. And it's also, I suppose, where he's vulnerable as well.
Yeah, but I think, it's a good risk reward for him, I suppose.
Yeah, 154 for 3, and Pope moves to 11. And the ball is back with Wagner. And he goes in now to bowl to Pope. It's short, and that's smashed away out to that man, Conway, on the deep forward square leg boundary. The poor old short leg fielder was in danger there for a moment. And Latham. Conway, who doubtless will be named player of the match.
Yep, there are, I would have thought, 4 candidates for the Conway, obviously. Southey, possibly, from the Kiwi side. Rory Burns, and probably the 33-1 outsider, Ollie Robinson.
I would actually give 500-1 outsider on that, to be honest.
Well, we were recalling, weren't we? It's a different set of circumstances.
155 for 3, Sibley on strike. Wagner goes in and bowls full, and well, if he'd missed that would have been LBW. But Sibley didn't. He turned it away, playing across that front pad down towards fine leg. Throw comes in on the bounce to Watling, who takes it. The return beautifully. Another one that bounced in front of him, whips off the bails, but Sibley was home. 159 for 3, or have they already added the 2 runs? 157 or 159?
157.
157, sorry.
We were recalling the Man of the Series award in the Pakistan series of a few years ago when Charles Clarke gave Mohammed Amir the trophy inside the pavilion, as it happens. Don't know why I mentioned that.
I think we can all read between the lines. Here is Wagner. Up on his toes goes Sibley and shovels it into the leg side to the right of square leg for a single. Conway picks up 158 for 3. Sibley goes to 59. Pope 12, men out today. Burns 25, Crawley 2, Root 40. Well, the men out in the England innings. And then for New Zealand today, they were 2 down overnight. Wagner was out for 10, Taylor for 33, and Nichols for 23. New Zealand getting on with it before lunch. Oh, and Latham for 36 as well. Wicket for Root, wicket for Wood, Robinson, and Broad at last. That long barren spell. Here is Wagner bowling full to Pope, who comes forward and pushes that towards Williamson at extra cover, and there's no run. That is the end of the over. So we've now had 4 overs of the final hour. It's 158 for 3. So 11 overs left if New Zealand want them. I'm sure England will walk off at any moment. 115 runs away from victory though. And 158 for 3. Stalemate out there. We're heading towards that draw.
England drew the last 2 tests of the 2020 summer, both games heavily affected by rain against Pakistan. This will make it the 3rd consecutive draw. There'd only been 3 draws in the previous 42 tests played in England. For the last time there were 3 successive draws in this country. You have to go back to the final test of the 1989 Ashes. Wow. Which was drawn to get England a heroic 4-0 defeat, and then the first 2 tests of the 1990 summer against New Zealand were both drawn.
Well, that's another very good stat. It just demonstrates sort of how the game has changed. The draw has become a rarity. We have lost one day.
Generally need some rain around though, don't you, to force the draw. We had that day out. Was it 3rd day now, Friday? Right, on we go, and here's Jonathan.
Thank you. Change of bowling up the far end. Jameson coming on, 2 slips in the gully waiting, and he bowls to the redoubtable Sibley, and that's a bouncer outside the off stump, and Sibley ducks underneath it, and it's collected by Watling. Some of the crowd remaining. I think a number have retired now, but New Zealand deciding, well, possibly to get some overs into his bowler's legs that might not play in the next game. That's one thought, that maybe Southey won't play, and Bolt will probably get a game.
Do you think so? I'm not so sure. Is he sort of match fit?
Well,
he's arrived, has he?
Oh, yeah, he's been training. I mean, I think there was as a thought that he might play at Edgbaston. In comes Jameson and again, and bowls outside the off stump, and Sibley ignores it. But, otherwise, it seems odd that a captain would bowl his front line seamers into the ground in a situation which looks unlikely to force a win, but maybe he's got in his mind who's going to play in the next one, and that
well, he's given them all a fairly good workout.
He certainly has.
But you know, they like playing cricket at Lords. They only get the chance every 4 years. And
in comes Jameson from the pavilion end and bowls short, doesn't get up very high. Sibley has to duck all the way down almost to ground level to get underneath that one.
And I'm sure they'd rather get their overs in. Everyone has a sort of quota of overs.
Yep.
They'd rather get them in the middle at Lords with the possibility of getting the odd test wicket than in the nets at Edgbaston, I should think.
Yes, that's true. 158 for 3. Target 273. Pope has 12. Sibley 59 not out from 190 balls. And he's over his bat again.
You're building up for the grilling.
Here comes Jameson and bowls another bouncer, and Sibley ducks underneath it. I think I was ready about an hour ago, but I think I've gone off.
No, the adrenaline will be back, don't you worry.
Well,
Once you get that microphone in your hand,
I think I've...
stare them in the eye. Try and get... and you might have to, desert the... What would you say to those who say intro? I don't know. We've slightly given that one away.
He doesn't know it, though.
No.
I don't
Well,
think
he was back in the pavilion now. He could be framing his response.
Yeah, yes, it could be. Jameson on his way, bowls to Sibley outside the off stump. It has stopped on him a little bit. And Watling had to move forward to gather that. Michael Ablewhite. Hello, Michael. Good evening, TMS. Is it really evening? Yes, it is. It's 6:45. On the subject of agreeing to finish early if a result isn't likely, surely that's the same as a slow over rate. The paying public are being deprived of an hour's cricket that they have paid for. Or perhaps I'm being naive. Yeah, it used to be half an hour, didn't it? It used to be 8 overs. Well, it used to be half an hour to start with. Then overs, of course, came into it all. So it became 8 overs. Comes Jameson outside the off stump and nothing from Sibley. And then I don't know what prompted to move it to an hour. The last hour could be halted.
But I think the players were quite keen that when the game was absolutely moribund.
There were, I think, a series of really, really dead games played.
Yeah.
And that was when they decided, look, perhaps we'll extend it to an hour rather than just a half hour. I suspect it came from the days before where the players had to move on from the test match and go and play for their counties the next day.
Yeah.
Jameson on his way, bowls down the leg side. Sibley has nothing to do with it. Watling gathers. And it's the end of the over, and Williamson is waving somebody else up. It might be Santner to come and bowl. Maybe his finger has been at least partially restored, but he waved there for someone to come up, and Santner is striding up towards the bowling crease.
Yep, he's going to keep going.
Floodlights are on.
That's odd, isn't it?
It is a bit.
It's not really dark. But
So yes, Santner, who had some sort of a worn finger or a cut. Anyway, he's striding up. He's taking his cap off, handing it to his captain, and he's going to bowl from the nursery end to Pope, who's on 12. We've had 5 of the last 15 overs. Williamson can at any stage say thanks very much and shake hands and walk off. 10 overs to go at the moment. He doesn't seem of a mood to do that. He might give Jameson 3 overs, maybe 4, if he wants him to have
he's had a good game.
Bowl.
We've seen our first glimpse really of Jameson, and
I like the length that he bowls.
Yeah.
It's a little bit fuller than you might expect.
Yeah, he has got the ball to kind of swing away a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah. So it's Santner, the left arm spinner, with England needing 114 to win from 10 overs. There's tossed up and clothed, I think is the modern expression, into the leg side by Pope, who completely mistimed that.
4-5, eh?
He almost yorked himself.
He did. Santner again goes creeping in, no leading arm. That one turns very sharply. It's very well taken by Watling. That really spat. Makes you wonder again if it had been a full 5 days without the third day washout, what might have been a very interesting game. I think it would have gone the distance. There's another one outside the off stump. It doesn't spin so much. Trims the off stump area. Paul Maxwell rose. I'm disappointed by all the moaning from the commentary team. After a tour in India when England's defensive weakness was thoroughly exposed and pundits savaged them for being unable to stay in. Here's Santner bowling. That's sliced away out to point. And they'll take a single. Surely it's to be celebrated. These players are demonstrating the patience and calm batting which has been called for so often in recent years. You can't constantly complain about these new players only knowing how to smash it and then whine all afternoon when they show some patience and defensive skills. Well, that's another alternative view. Thank you, Paul. 160 for 3. I don't think anyone suggested anyone goes out and smashes it. And goes Santner, left arm round the wicket. So that's ignored by Sibley, who's on 59. Pope on 13.
That's the whole point, isn't it? They didn't need to smash it.
No. Well, Slip and a short leg. In goes Santner. That's another full toss. He's bowled a few of those. And again, he looks at his finger suspiciously. He's got a little tape on there or something to protect it, because you don't want to. Again, from Williamson's point of view, why make this worse?
You're not allowed to bowl with tape on, I don't think.
Trying to think of in the good old days of what a spinner might have done to try and harden that skin on his finger up.
It's funny that I bowl a lot of overs, and in the 80s in particular, and at the end of the 80s, there's barely a mark on my index finger at all. It's a bit of a puzzle, that.
It is a puzzle. That's very surprising.
Jameson continues into the evening.
Yeah. And he comes from the pavilion end. He's carrying some shadows of the floodlights now. That's worked away into the leg side, possibly off the pad. He comes running away down here to Matt Henry, who's on here at fine leg. Adrian, as an Englishman, I'm ashamed of our complete lack of ambition or enterprise and not attempting to chase down the total. What are we achieving at grinding out a paint-dryingly dull draw? The word paint has featured a lot this afternoon, isn't it? It shows complete lack of imagination or confidence and a lamentable lack of consideration for England fans. Here the team have a wonderful opportunity to do something amazing and something they can tell their children about. But instead they retreat into their shells, fearful of failure. There's a bouncer. Sibley ducks underneath it.
Well, two very eloquent polar opposite views.
They are. We'll put them out there, but I don't know. I think
I'm leaning towards the latter myself.
Well, I'm hoping that we've just been fairly honest about a situation, and particularly when the captain has said at the start of the game that the ambition is to win all 7 Test matches. Well, there was an opportunity. I'm not saying that England would have won today. Kane Williamson didn't declare in that situation at lunch gifting England a game. It would have required some work and some luck and everything else. But it's just the attempt didn't seem to be there. Sibley works out off his hip, picks up one down to fine leg. Whether England worried that middle order that failed in the first innings and then the long tail might not have been able to salvage things if it went wrong, lock it out for whatever it would have taken to have taken the draw. That might be an argument that they would have said. We'll find out.
You'll find out.
162 for 3. Jameson again hurls that down as an edge, and a despairing dive from Slip, and Ollie Pope's going to pick up 4 runs. That runs into the boundary below us here. And that's 4 runs to Ollie Pope, who was just part of the reason for New Zealand wanted to carry on. They'd like to knock him over. I thought if we can get another failure for Pope, and get Lawrence in and knock him over, and Bracey and knock him over, and even if you don't finish it off, then they're in no better place. Arguably they're in a worse place heading into Edgbaston. There's Jameson towering over the umpire, and he bowls outside Pope's off stump. He cuts that hard. It's into Nicholls at gully.
Pope looks like he's almost in good nick. He's just a bit frenetic, but he's in his 2 innings. He's also played 1 or 2 strikingly good shots. Yeah. So you could see him. You could see him playing long innings somehow.
I hope so, because I like watching Pope.
Yeah.
Beautiful player. Trying to see where he's batting. He's still quite over on the offside, isn't he? Comes Jameson, bowls him, cuts back, hits a nasty one up on the thigh. He wants a single. Now that's the sound of the stumps being hit by Nicholls. But Pope was in his ground. That's the end of that over. And you can almost see the batsman
looking to Williamson.
To Kane Williamson, saying, have you had enough? Is that it? Are we done? But no. On they go.
I think he just likes being out there, Kane Williamson.
He does.
And it seems like most of his team, I mean, the real Nardole pros would be wondering out in the field, the real Nardole pros, which don't belong in the Kiwi team, would be thinking, I know, I could be on my first pint by now. But that's a 20th century view.
Yes. Well, Santner is carrying on, so whatever this finger injury is, and he keeps looking at it, and it was bleeding quite obviously very long ago. But, they feel is something is not going to be made worse through bowling, I guess. It does grip the ball very hard. Round the wicket he goes, spins harmlessly away. No stroke from Sibley, who's on 60 now. The ball somehow has run away into the offside. A misdirected throw from Watling, I think. On 66 for 3.
Do you think he'll come off when there are only 6 balls left? Which would make it impossible for them to win. I suppose he's seen almost everything happen on this ground, so...
There's the next one, spins sharply. Sibley ignores it. Bit of chatter there, not sure what that's all about. I heard that sounded like Southey to me, chattering away. Santner round the wicket again, bowls a quicker one to Sibley's forward. It's picked up by Latham at short leg with the helmet on. On 66 for 3. Williamson drops back a shade at mid-off. He's going to toss this up, saying, come on, Don, drive it. And he goes, bowls. He has floated it off a bit, actually, but he's not driving it. He's blocking it. And again, Latham fields. On 66 for 3. Lovely evening. Sun still high, but behind some clouds, is why the floodlights are on at the moment.
He's going to come over the wicket, cunning plan, a bit late in proceedings.
So Southey goes to leg slip. The short leg.
We may have the slightly unedifying side of Sibley now, kicking it away. Let's see where he lands it.
Yes, he might. Santner on his way in. Bowls, that's outside the off stump, and Sibley reaches for this and pats it away out to cover. 166 for 3. Hardy souls still here, one or two stewards patrolling the grandstand. Santner again bowls. Oh, he does kick that one away. Pitching outside the leg stump, can't be LBW, so it has presented a large pad, and the ball bounced away harmlessly into the offside. All eyes on Williamson. No, he walks up to Santner, gives him his cap, sunglasses.
Free chat with Ross Taylor.
Yes, that's interesting. A senior pro, 37 years old.
What he thinks. He's going to slip.
Yep.
Jameson's going to keep going. His first time at Lord's, trying to work out for future reference which end do I like the best, perhaps. Just having a look at that LBW show, and do you know that's very close. It's just missing off.
Yeah.
It pitched in line.
It did pitch in line. He's going to be careful of that. It's missing the stumps by a long way, but it's
it did sort of spin. But if he could get an arm ball pitch in there, might be in business.
166 for 3, heading towards 7 o'clock. And there's 8 overs. The last 15 have been bowled, and here's Jameson bowling, and that's worked away into the leg side. Dive from de Grandhomme there, does well.
Dive from Watling,
hurls the
also
ball
does
to
well.
Watling. I mean, the wicketkeepers really have had a difficult game, and that's possibly not what Watling wanted at this stage. A low, flat, skimming half volley to the keeper, really.
In the popping crease.
Yes. And he got there.
Well, he won't be playing again at Lord's, I don't suppose.
No. And nor will Wagner.
Has he announced anything, or is he?
No, I think of test matches.
Well, Watling has announced.
Yes, he has. Yeah. I suspect with Taylor. I mean, they could pop up in hundreds and T20 blasts and things, but test match wise, I don't think we won't see New Zealand here for another 3 or 4 years, I don't suppose. Jameson from the pavilion end bowls, and Pope on the back foot plays out to Conway.
Well, he won't forget the experience. We might see him again.
Yes.
What an innings that was on that first day for well, a debutant, anyone actually. It didn't matter that he was a debutant. It was a high-class innings, the best comfortably of the match. Beautiful timing, great poise, and fascinating to see how he progresses. I mean, can he progress from here?
Well, it's not a bad start, is it? 166 for 3. Pope's on 17. Jameson over the wicket, bowls outside the off stump. Pope allows that to pass through. Watling's again down on his hands and knees as that doesn't carry. 2, I think, have had enough and they're off. Is that a no ball? I think it was.
No ball, yeah.
It's a third umpire no ball. Jameson wheels round. Pope's ready. Here he comes again. Bowls that one with a bit of a grunt. Into the leg side it goes for a single.
Just for the first time looking at Jameson, I think he's wondering about the wisdom of,
I think he looks weary.
of this spell. He's got a big man, 6'8". The footholds are 4 days old.
Yeah,
it's a long way down as he plonks that left foot down. He had a bit of a scrape.
They'll be rough as well. They'll be uneven.
Yeah.
You'll be feeling your spikes in your boots at this stage. There's your slow hand clap.
Bit late coming, I thought. Oh, it didn't. Oh, hang on.
Here's Jameson, bowls a bouncer again. Sibley's underneath it. There's a man out for the hook shot. And also down at fine leg. So he's not having anything to do with that. 205 balls now for Sibley's 60. It's just the way that he plays. I mean, we talk about it, but just like to see more energy about the way England go about those opening overs.
This can be valuable.
It's not about smashing for people. Start saying, "Oh, we're talking about T20." I'm not at all. I'm talking about just energy, singles. Just push the ball into gaps. Look busy. Sibley again, patting that away to mid-on. Just make the fielders think. Make the bowlers think. It's not about standing there and smashing it into the stands. It's running singles. It's strike rotation, and that's what there wasn't any of in those early overs of England's innings. So there was no momentum. .168 for 3. Sibley waits for Jameson, who does cast a weary figure now, mopping his brow. He's got 1 ball to go in this over. And in he comes. He bowls it. Oh, it's another short ball outside the off stump, which Sibley ignores. And I think really Williamson ought to say to Jameson, that's it, thank you, you've tried very hard. It does look absolutely exhausted. 168 for 3. Pope 18, Sibley has 60. I'm looking at a quick shot of somebody on the screen there who's absolutely fast asleep. But there we go. Who's going to bowl now? It looks as if Santner's going to continue. Victor, more thoughts from you, and then Simon Mann's coming back.
Yeah, well, I keep looking at Kane Williamson, who has a chat with his senior citizen Ross Taylor, who's happily poodling off to slip. Santner's going to continue. He's actually bowled 2 or 3 really quite vicious deliveries. And Phil, we're leaving here tantalised. The ball has turned, but we haven't had quite enough spin bowling to see it leaping and bouncing. We might have had a run chase of great excitement.
Here is Santner bowling to Pope, who drives, but straight to mid-off, and there's no run. I must say, I'm surprised to be seeing you again, Victor.
Yes.
Next to you in the commentary box in front of the microphone. There is a sort of sense of futility here, really. I agree with Jonathan that New Zealand, perhaps they want the full practice before the final.
Well, there's something rather endearing about the fact they just I think they quite like being out there. I mean, they're on tour, they come to play cricket, they're at the home of cricket, they're at Lords, they quite like it out there.
168 for 3, Santner bowls, nudged away by Pope down towards fine leg, should get 2 here. Taylor after it from slip. The lights are on. There's plenty of blue sky above, but there's a dark cloud away to our right, which is obscuring the sun, but it's been a benign day of weather. It's just a big shame, actually, that the third day was knocked out
Yeah, I think that would have led to
A really good game.
a really good game.
Yeah.
We thought we had a really good game at lunchtime.
Yeah.
We were wrong.
170 for 3. Santner bowls, and Pope turns to mid-wicket, and there is no run. So we have, after this over 5 overs left. When did the last hour start? And did you put the clock on it?
It's about 20 past 6, I think.
About
A while ago, Simon.
Oh, right. Okay. Santner bowling out, keeps low, and Pope gets the bat down just in time. Goes out towards mid-off, and there's no run. I think the thing I was concerned about is whether they might bowl more than 15 overs.
I don't think so.
Right. So that's some useful batting practice for Pope, I suppose. He might not have wanted it, but he's getting it, and at the moment he's making the most of it. Pope drives towards mid-on, picked up by de Grandhomme. And there is no run.
Spin has been possibly the one weakness in this New Zealand team of late.
Santner bowling at the nursery end into Pope, and Pope is forward. Ball, it turns a fraction, but he covers it, goes out into the offside. There's no run. It's the end of the over, so 10 of the last 15 have been bowled. Again, we're just looking at Williamson. What's he doing? Just wait and see. Go on, just make the point about spin, Andy.
Is Watling coming on to bowl?
I think it could be. You didn't say that with any great excitement. You said that with a hint of disgust.
There was a test match in which
He is.
Oh, no. Hold on. They are shaking hands now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Watling has taken a decision. He'd take my pads off. And I'm going to bowl unless you call this game off.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all over.
Yeah,
There's lots of shaking hands.
So, 10 overs into the final hour, was it? England finishing on 170 for 3, with Pope 20 not out and Sibley 60 not out. New Zealand made a game of it on this final day, but England didn't accept the challenge. They felt the challenge was too difficult, and that is up to them to make that decision. But it made for some unsatisfactory cricket, I think, in the afternoon session into the evening session. I don't know what the crowd made of it, whether they could understand England's sort of hard-nosed professional approach, that if they'd gone for it they'd have risked losing, might well have lost the game.
Hard-nosed, but I'm not so sure about professional, really. Because I think there was so much to gain for such a young team to have to explore what might be possible. Instead, a really challenging, a really quite brave, I thought, declaration from Williamson has tantalised us and then left us a wee bit disappointed. However, the match is drawn, the series remains all square with one to play. Edgbaston just need 5 days of fine weather. They're two pretty well matched sides. I think the Kiwis come out, even though they only got the 3 wickets this afternoon, it transpired with the only game that could win it in the last 90 minutes or so, 2 hours. And they had outplayed England without dominating them entirely throughout. Conway is the headline cricketer from this match. We've seen a new cricketer for us, and a new cricketer in Test cricket for New Zealand, who looks the ready-made product. Yeah. And he came out in the second innings, batted okay, but 200 in his debut Test, showing a lot of poise, a touch of class too. Lovely timing. And I suspect we'll see a lot more of him in the immediate future.